Chapter 21:16. For the future return of the young master, let's do it. I won't let you down. Let's do it. Inside the brightly lit tent. Your Majesty, if nothing goes wrong, the barrier created by the 8 divine beasts will be broken tomorrow. The commander of the celestial world bowed and reported to the celestial the Arch. The celestial the Arch nodded slightly, and his voice was full of pressure. Give them an ultimatum. If they don't hand over the 8 divine beasts and the young master of the demon world, no one in the Mo Palace will be spared. Your Majesty, there's something I don't understand, the human emperor beside him interrupted. Please speak. Your Majesty, since we can break through the Mo Palace tomorrow, why worry about not being able to catch the people we want? Why is there a need to give them an ultimatum? In my humble opinion, they are meat on the chopping board now. We can do whatever we want with them, and there's no need to mention any conditions to them. That's right, I think so too. The demons originally lived in a barren place like the dark demonic world, but because of the demon master, they seized many good territories in the 6 realms, causing the 6 realms to be in chaos. Now is the time to set things right so we don't have to talk to them about any conditions. When the time comes, we can just catch the 8 divine beasts and that little brat and punish them to give justice to the victims. As for the others, we can kill them or let them go. We just have to chase them back to the demon world, the young master of the underworld suggested. The celestial the Arch didn't comment and just smiled faintly. Do you all think that we can catch the 8 divine beasts once the barrier is broken? Everyone looked at each other and one of them said, the Mo Palace barrier was created by the 8 divine beasts. Once the barrier is broken, won't they be at the end of their rope? Won't it be easy to catch them? The celestial the Arch sneered. You've underestimated the 8 divine beasts. You probably haven't heard of their deeds. Please elaborate. The 8 divine beasts used to be the 8 evil beasts. The birth of each of them was a bloodbath, and each of them was powerful enough to overturn a mountain. Once they fought, they could destroy a world and there would be no living creatures within thousands of miles. Back then, when they were wreaking havoc, even 100,000 heavenly soldiers were unable to capture them and suffered heavy losses. It was the Reverend God who came out and subdued them one by one with a supreme technique. Then he brought them back to the Brahma Palace and turned them into stone statues. He used his divine power to remove the evil aura from their bodies over a long period of time. It took him tens of thousands of years to completely tame them. The Reverend God was afraid that they would go out and cause trouble, so he usually used a secret technique to imprison them in the Brahma Palace and turn them into stone statues. It was only recently that it was completely revived, and it even recognized the demon son as its master. The celestial emperor told everyone about the origins of the 8 great mythological beasts that he had read in ancient books. Although it was only a few words, it was enough to shock everyone. One of them still had some doubts. According to what your Majesty said, these 8 mythological beasts are indeed powerful, but why didn't they directly fight back when they were besieged this time, but instead set up this kind of enchantment? The celestial emperor said, they are divine beasts that have been taught by the supreme divinity, so they don't usually hurt people. Besides, they've been sealed for more than 50,000 years, so they should be much weaker than before. Your Majesty's words are reasonable, but I always feel that something is a little strange. With the power of the 8 divine beasts, if they ran away from the beginning, we probably wouldn't have been able to catch them. I didn't expect that they would be willing to stay here and guard the city. What are they protecting? Or what are they waiting for? In other words, the demon realm had no other reinforcements. Chapter 21:17. In other words, there are no other reinforcements in the Devil Kingdom. What are they waiting for? Or were they actually still waiting for some mysterious reinforcements? But who could this mysterious savior be? According to the report, the Devil Master is seriously ill and unconscious. Are they waiting for her to wake up? The celestial emperor's face was gloomy. He had received the exact news that the Devil Master Shuama was dead. However, he did not see the body with his own eyes, so he was not at ease. If the Devil Master was only unconscious, once she woke up and found that her son and subordinates were being forced to do so, she would not let it go easily. However, these days, the successor of the Divine Lord seemed to have disappeared. No matter what method the Celestial Emperor used, he could not contact him. The Celestial Emperor once personally went to the Fanteon Palace to take a look. He could only vaguely hear a sound from inside, but he could not tell what it was. Without the master of the Fanteon Palace to open the door, the Celestial Emperor could not enter. Gradually, the Celestial Emperor did not dare to count on Luo Jiuchen anymore. He only wanted to catch the 8 mythological beasts as soon as possible and get the body of the Devil Master Shuema out so that he could execute her with a secret technique. Of course, he had to eliminate the root of the problem. Shen Yunma also had to be eliminated. The son of the celestial god and the great devil must be very talented. Once he grew up, his revenge would be very tragic. This was the celestial emperor's plan, but it was a little dirty, and it was not convenient to say it in public. Therefore he just coughed and said, "The Devil Master has made a big mistake. Whether she is unconscious or dead, she must be judged by the 6 realms. She must be punished according to the heavenly law to bring justice to the 6 realms." Basically, the people in the tent were the leaders of the 4 realms. Originally it was the 3 realms. Later the underworld joined in the name of avenging Yama. Now it was the union of the 4 realms. These leaders were all old foxes who had been in the world for a long time. Naturally, they understood the seriousness of the situation. If the Devil Master was dead, the 8 mythological beasts would definitely escape with the young master. There would be endless trouble in the future. If the Devil Master was not dead, once she woke up, there would be a bloody storm. Therefore, whether the Devil Master was dead or not, they had to conquer the Mo Palace as soon as possible. Your Majesty, are you saying that once the Mo Palace is broken, the 8 mythological beasts will escape with the young master? The Celestial the Arch nodded. That's most likely the case. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Even if the 8 great mythological beasts have reached the end of their tether, if the 8 of them join forces to break out of the encirclement, no one should be able to stop their sharpness. Therefore, it is best to force them to hand over the person themselves. He paused for a moment and then found a fair and just reason. No matter what, this disaster was caused by the 8 great divine beasts and the Devil Master. It has nothing to do with the other devils in Mo Palace. We are benevolent and righteous people, so we should try not to kill them all. As long as they are sensible enough to make friends with us, we can let them live. Suddenly, a brilliant firework-like light exploded in the sky above Mo Palace. The devils of Mo Palace were gathered in the martial arts field to discuss countermeasures. When they saw the light, they all looked up. Lines of words slowly flashed in the sky above Molan. Ultimatum: hand over the 8 great divine beasts and the Devil Master's devil son, and we can let you all live. You would never kill the innocent. Otherwise, I will bathe Mo Palace in blood. The lines of words were golden and full of power. The devils became restless and started cursing. The 8 guardians of Mo Palace looked at each other. Suddenly they raised their hands together. 8 rays of red light shot up, and a line of sonorous and powerful words appeared below the barrier. Hypocrites, see you on the battlefield. Chapter 21:18. This was destined to be a sleepless night. The demons of Mo Palace rubbed their palms together. Their days of being cowards had finally come to an end. They would rather die in battle than be trapped and slowly starve to death. Hot blood was boiling in his veins, clamoring for release, clamoring for a great massacre. In the main tent of the 4 realms outside Mo Palace. Your Majesty, they still refused to surrender and even issued a challenge, a spy reported. The Sky Emperor narrowed his eyes and said coldly, I've already given them a chance. They gave it up on their own accord, so don't blame us for being impolite. Now is the time to eliminate the demons and restore the might of the immortals. He immediately dispatched troops with the other masters of the 3 realms. If the barrier of Mo Palace is broken, what should we do if they split up and escape? Someone asked. The Sky Emperor's eyes shone with sharpness. Gather all the troops and hunt down the 8 divine beasts and the son of the demon. We can ignore the rest for now and surround them in the future. The 8 divine beasts and the son of the demon were the biggest threat to him. As for the other demons, they were just a bunch of mobs. Once their leader was captured, they would not be able to do anything. It would not be too late to deal with them slowly. Your Majesty, Venerable Yi Tianli requests an audience, someone reported. The Sky Emperor's eyes lit up. Invite him in. Yi Tianli was once the strongest person in the immortal world. Back then, Ning Shuema chopped off one of his hands, forming a grudge. The Sky Emperor thought that he would definitely be crippled, but he did not expect that his hand could be reattached. His performance in the battle to seal Zisha was remarkable, and the Sky Emperor had a whole new level of respect for him. He was originally the strongest person in the immortal world, and after the battle with Zisha, he was favored by the Sky Emperor. Ning Shuema mistakenly killed the Sky Emperor's sister at a banquet in the immortal world. Yi Tianli was among the people who captured Ning Shuema, and he contributed the most. This time, the Sky Emperor sent him to contact the hidden masters from the other realms to assist in the attack on Mo Palace. Now he had finally rushed back. Yi Qianli did not disappoint him. This time he brought back 10 masters. They were all famous hermits. Any one of them could defeat 10,000 people. The Sky Emperor was overjoyed and rewarded Yi Qianli and his companions heavily. He also gave Yi Qianli a new mission. After the enchantment of Mo Palace was broken tomorrow, Yi Qianli and his companions were to ambush in the sky with the sky net and wait for the opportunity to capture the 8 mythological beasts and the son of demon. The night gradually receded, and a line of white appeared in the east. Dawn was about to break. Shen Yinma sat in front of the blood coffin for another night. No one came to disturb him and no one came to comfort him. Under such circumstances, any consolation would be superfluous. Outside, the first rays of the morning sun rose and shone into the room through the window lattice. Shen Yinma squinted his eyes and then turned his head to look into the blood coffin. His face was already pale and his fingers were clenched tightly. "Mother?" His little hand touched the blood coffin. His voice was hoarse and dry. "Do you not want Yanma anymore?" "Young master, how is the devil master?" Steward Himu strode in. Shen Yinma did not speak. He only looked at the blood coffin. Steward Himu looked into the blood coffin, and his body stiffened slightly. Inside the blood coffin, with the first ray of the morning sun, Ning Shuema's body in the coffin had undergone an amazing change. The flesh quickly dried up and it looked like a skeleton wrapped in a layer of skin. The devil master was really dead and he would never come back. Steward Himu's heart was bleeding, and his last hope was finally shattered. However, now was not the time to be sad. Steward Himu took a deep breath. Chapter 21:19. However, it was not the time to be sad. General Manager Heimu took a deep breath and bowed to Shen Yinma. "Young master, it is time for you to make a decision." Shen Yinma closed his eyes slightly and slowly got up. He only said one word, "Okay." He raised his hand and fished out the body from the blood coffin. The body had shrunk into a skeleton, and there were some bloodstains on it. It looked a little scary. If it were other children, they would have been scared and hid behind the adults. However, Shen Yinma was not afraid at all. Although he was short, his kung fu had reached a certain level. It was easy for him to carry a body like this. He stood up. The bloody skeleton in his arms almost covered his whole body. He strode out with the skeleton in his arms. "Young master." General Manager Heimu did not know what he was going to do, so he quickly followed him out. On a big bed made of agarwood, Ning Shuema had been washed clean. She was lying on the bed wearing a new set of clothes. There were no other burial objects on the bed, only the withered lotus. The lotus was once his mother's most precious thing. His mother told him that the lotus could bring about miracles. He did not wait for a miracle. Instead, he waited for the death of both his parents. From now on, he would be a fugitive without his parents by his side. He put the lotus by his mother's side as an explanation for his mother's love for it. "Mother, you can rest in peace. Nyenma will avenge you in the future." Shen Yinma sat on the bed and leaned over to kiss his mother's cheek. General Manager Heimu and the other high-ranking generals of the Devil Kingdom watched from the side. They were all sad and angry. General Manager Heimu took a deep breath. "Young master. The Demon Lord Spirit in heaven will bless young master's return." Shen Yinma did not speak. His mother's soul must have been gone. Otherwise, how could she be willing to leave him alone? Where did the spirit of the Devil Lord come from? He bowed a few times to the big bed. Then he made up his mind to release the true Samadhi fire. A fireball was thrown over and the agarwood bed burned. The 3 true flames burned things very quickly. After a while, the Devil Lord's corpse could no longer be seen on the big bed. Only a handful of ashes was left on the spot. Shen Yinma kept the ashes in a small porcelain jar and carried it on his back. "Mother, I will take you with me." Ka! A bolt of lightning seemed to have exploded in midair. The unbreakable barrier that had protected the Mo Palace for half a month was finally broken. The battle cries instantly spread into Mo Palace. Countless figures of the 6 realms experts appeared in the sky above their heads. "Flatten Mo Palace. Slay the demons and return peace to the 6 realms. Flatten Mo Palace. Flatten Mo Palace." The slogans were earth-shattering, causing the earth to tremble slightly. In the sky and on the ground, countless experts of the 4 realms appeared in Mo Palace. However, when he saw everything in Mo Palace clearly, he was somewhat stunned. These people thought that after Mo Palace was conquered, the devils would all flee outside. However, they had already set up an inescapable net in all directions, waiting for these devils to walk right into it. However, they did not expect that these devils had no intention of escaping at all. They gathered in the largest martial arts field in Mo Palace. Thousands of devil soldiers and generals were arranged in a strange pattern, as if they were forming a shocking array. Their clothes were also strange. Everyone was wearing a linen robe with their hair draped over their shoulders. There was a flame pattern embroidered on their chest. Chapter 21:20. Their attire was also very strange. Every one of them was wearing a sackcloth robe and their hair was loose. There was a flame pattern embroidered on their chests, and there was also a flame pattern on their foreheads. They stood there in an orderly manner, and their eyes were fixed on the invaders of the four realms. The 8 great guardians of the devil clan stood in a row, dressed in the same attire as the devil generals. In the middle of the array there were 8 mythological beasts. A snow-white beast stood in the middle, and Shin Yinma sat on the back of the snow-white beast. He was surrounded by 7 mythological beasts, protecting him from all directions. Outside the devil clan's formation, there was a strange pattern dripping with blood. It looked like a skull with its mouth open and laughing. The 2 eyes of the skull seemed to be alive as they moved on the ground, as if they were also staring at the invaders. It was a strange array and the strange people in the Mo Palace. The Mo Palace was full of strangeness and it made people feel cold when they saw it. The first invaders from the 4 realms were stunned when they saw the scene. Some of them were good at traveling underground and wanted to get into the center of the devil clan's array to kill the 8 mythological beasts. However, when they got close to the array they could not wait to come back. It was as if they had been poured with strong acid. Their skin and flesh were burned and they screamed in pain. Obviously, traveling underground was not a good idea. Since they could not attack, they could only attack openly. This time, there were tens of thousands of people from the 4 realms, but there were only a few thousand of them. Moreover, they had been hungry for a few days. The commander of the 4 realms ordered a group of people to attack. They were the vanguard to test the strength of the devil clan. Naturally, they also wanted to know what they were up to. The group of people could be said to be elites. They shouted and rushed forward. The group of people in the array of the devil clan finally moved. The great guardian of the devil clan laughed. "Ungrateful bastards, I will let you have a taste of the power of the devil clan." He suddenly waved his hand. The devil clan surrounding him did not face the enemy head-on. Instead they crawled on the ground. The great guardian suddenly flicked his finger and a red light flashed. In the blink of an eye, it circled around the devils who were crawling on the ground. The man prostrating on the ground suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar, causing the distant main hall to tremble and the tiles to clatter. Of course, the experts of the 4 realms were also shocked. Their ears buzzed and they all took a step back. What kind of tactic was this? The high-ranking generals of the 4 realms were confused. Naturally, the experts of the 4 realms would not be scared off by this shout. After taking a step back, they simply took out all kinds of magic treasures and attacked the group of crawling devils blocking their way. All kinds of magic treasures flickered in midair, emitting ear-piercing and pleasing sounds. All kinds of lights flickered, and each of them carried a fierce murderous aura. Each of them was powerful enough to cut a person's body and split a person's soul. The prostrating demons remained motionless, but a circle of red light burst out from each of their bodies. The demons prostrating on the ground disappeared and were replaced by blood-red falcons. Every single one of them was gigantic, and they carried an eerie ghostly aura. They circled in the air and flapped their wings, sending raging flames and gusts of wind toward the experts of the 4 realms. They were completely defeated by the attack. Blood nether falcons. They are blood nether falcons. Someone exclaimed. Oh my god, they are using the blood soul forbidden technique. Chapter 21:21. The blood soul forbidden technique was said to be the most advanced and most brutal technique in the demon realm. It was a technique that used the lives of demons as the price to transform their souls into the most ferocious blood nether eagles. The blood nether eagles were not afraid of weapons, fire, or water. It could be said that they had copper skin and iron bones. One could not even find a place to attack to kill them. One could only use the water of the heavenly river to water them. However, only the heavenly emperor could use the water of the heavenly river. No one else could even think about it. Furthermore, their attack power was extremely terrifying. It was 10 times more powerful than the blood nether eagles that the experts in the purple demon formation encountered. However, once those demon generals turned their souls into blood nether eagles, they could no longer be resurrected. They would burn out their souls and die within 3 days. Their souls would truly dissipate. Unexpectedly, these demons did not want to escape. Instead, they chose to perish together. Dozens of blood nether eagles flew up and down. They spat out samadhi fire from their mouths and flapped their wings. In the blink of an eye they killed the first group of people from the four realms. The people from the four realms were forced to retreat. They did not know how to deal with them. I'll let you bastards have a taste of our power. You want to bully the demon realm? Dream on. I'm going to perish together with you. Don't even think about escaping. Another 3 groups of demon protectors laughed wildly as they activated the blood soul forbidden technique. They had been besieged for such a long time that they were simply too sullen. Everyone had a belly full of anger in their hearts. They would rather die than drag a few people down with them. There were 4 groups of people in total. The souls of every 2 people combined and turned into blood nether eagles. There were a total of 400 blood nether eagles that attacked the people from the 4 realms. There were about 10,000 people from the 4 realms who entered the Mo Palace. However, they were all scared witless by the 400 blood nether eagles. Countless screams came from all directions. Some people were burned into charcoal. Some people had their bodies torn apart. There were broken limbs and body parts everywhere on the ground. Blood flowed along the ground of the training ground. The generals of the 4 realms hurriedly organized their forces to resist the blood nether eagles. At the same time, they wanted to send people out to call for reinforcements. However, they could not get out at the moment. The blood nether eagles covered the entire sky. These blood nether eagles were also well trained. They could turn into such ferocious beasts in an orderly manner. Some were waiting in the sky, some were diving down, and some were guarding the entrances and exits. They worked together and guarded the training field like an iron bucket. As for the soldiers of the 4 realms, they were like turtles in a jar. In just 2 short hours, more than half of the soldiers who came in had been killed or injured. Some of them reacted quickly and immediately used the underground movement technique to escape. Only then did they manage to save their lives. The leaders of the 4 realms would never do something like taking the lead. They stayed in their own tents and waited for the news of victory. 2 hours later there was no news of victory. Instead, a general covered in blood rushed in dejectedly and reported to the emperors of the 4 realms a piece of bad news. The Devil Clan had activated the blood soul forbidden technique in Mo Palace and started a massacre in all directions. Of the 10,000 people who had entered, less than 3,000 were left now, and the number was still decreasing rapidly. The Heavenly Emperor turned pale with fright. The other sovereigns of the 3 realms were still confused because they were inexperienced. At this time, the Sky Emperor did not have time to explain to them. He immediately led everyone out of the central tent and rushed towards Mo Palace. This central tent was the core of the army and was naturally far away from the battlefield. Therefore, it would take some time for the Celestial Emperor and the others to fly over. Chapter 21-22. What he didn't expect was that as soon as they flew into the sky, they saw a red cloud rising from Mo Palace. Those blood nether eagles rushed out of Mo Palace. Not good. They must be escorting the 8 divine beasts and the son of the demon to escape. With hundreds of blood nether eagles charging at the front, which ambush troop would be their match. The inescapable net that the 4 realm leaders had painstakingly set up would be torn open. If the 8 divine beasts escaped now, there would be no end to the trouble. The celestial Thearchus prediction was right. As soon as the blood-red cloud rushed out of Mo Palace, it immediately chose a direction and left. Its speed was like a bolt of lightning cutting through the blue sky. The Celestial the Arch panicked and immediately ordered the troops lying in ambush in that direction to quickly appear and intercept it at all costs. He himself also rushed in that direction like a gust of wind. What he didn't expect was that just as he ran 100 meters with countless Celestial World Guards, General Manager Himu led a group of demon soldiers and generals to stop him. The Celestial the Arch looked at the demon soldiers who instantly formed a human wall in front of him and blocked his path. He felt like he was struck by lightning. Weren't demons usually the most selfish and heartless ones? Wasn't it normal for them to scatter when disaster struck? Why did everything change now? Everything changed. When the Celestial the Arch led his troops to attack the demon world, he only needed to kill the leader first and capture or execute the leader. Those demon soldiers and generals would collapse on their own and scatter in all directions, unable to cause any trouble. He thought that it would be the same this time. Once Mo Palace was broken, these demons would take the opportunity to scatter and flee. He only needed to concentrate his troops to deal with the 8 divine beasts. Unexpectedly, not only did these demons not run, but they also came to meet him. They were facing the celestial world, which had the strongest combat power and troops. One had to know that all the people by the celestial Thearchus side were top-notch experts, and they had the largest number of people. Each of these experts could fight against 10 experts from Mo Palace. General Manager Himu had brought 2,000 demons. Other than those who had transformed into blood nether eagles, almost all the demon soldiers and generals were here. Were they going to fight to the death? Just to protect that little guy? Have all the devils changed? That devil lord had only ruled the Mo Palace for 3 years, yet he had already subdued the hearts of the people to such an extent? How did she do it? The Celestial the Arch had a belly full of questions. His gaze fell on General Manager Himu and he said in a low voice, "Are you here to die? Was it worth it? If you know what's good for you, get out of my way and I'll let you live. Otherwise, I won't spare your lives." The Celestial Emperor was in a hurry to catch up with the 8 mythological beasts, so he didn't want to waste his energy here. Therefore, he deliberately said this to give these demons a chance to escape so that they would give up without attacking. Head Steward Hamu's eyes were bloodshot, but he was still smiling calmly. Not even a chicken or dog will be spared. Celestial Emperor, do you think you can wipe out the devil race? He really dared to brag as long as he had a mouth and acted as a wall if he had a face. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Celestial Emperor, you are the #1 person in the celestial world, but I didn't expect you to be so despicable. A general beside the Celestial the Arch scolded, "How dare you?" He actually dared to insult the Heavenly Emperor like this. We, the celestial world, are righteous. How can we be despicable? Despicable and shameless is a word only used to describe you demons, okay? Chapter 21-23. Head Steward Himu raised his head and laughed. Righteous? The celestial realm is hunting down a child who's not even half a year old. You call that righteous? You're tarnishing the name of righteousness. Nonsense. He's not an ordinary child. He's the son of the devil. He ordered the 8 demonic beasts to break into the prison and kill so many innocent celestial generals. The general from the celestial realm retorted. He gave the order? What proof do you have that our young master gave the order? The celestial emperor's face darkened. He didn't want to argue with people because of his status. What's more, he had to chase the 8 divine beasts first. As for these small fries, he could deal with them later. The celestial realm soldiers wanted to retort, but the celestial emperor waved his hand to stop them. They're just arguing. Ignore them. Everyone has the right to kill the demons of the devil realm. There's no need to argue with them. He raised his hand and a golden light suddenly flew out of his palm. With a thunderous sound, it struck Head Steward Himu. Since the celestial emperor was the leader of all immortals, he naturally had some skills. His martial arts were definitely top-notch and could be considered terrifying. However, he usually held a high position. If there was anything he needed to do, his subordinates would do it for him. He didn't need to do anything at all. Thus, after so many years, the people of the 6 realms had almost forgotten his true abilities. They'd forgotten that he used to be the most invincible person in the 6 realms. Head Steward Himu was the first to bear the brunt of his thunderous attack. He was caught off guard, and by the time he realized something was wrong, it was already too late to block it. He only had time to dodge the attack on his vitals. He couldn't dodge the entire attack. His entire body was sent flying by the golden light. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air and crashed into the crowd of demonic soldiers and generals. If it weren't for the 3 enforcers desperately holding on to him, he would have fallen off the cloud and shattered into pieces. Their leader was beaten up, so the demonic realm's people were naturally enraged. Bastard. You're attacking because you can't win an argument. So the celestial realm's supremes are nothing more than this. Fight. Let's fight this bastard. The demonic realm's people all attacked the celestial emperor. Naturally, the celestial emperor's people also began to fight back. For a time, both sides were in a chaotic battle. Magic treasures and devilish lights flew about, severed limbs and mutilated bodies were the same color, and wails and curses filled the entire heavens and the earth. This battle was exceptionally tragic. In just an hour, countless people from both sides had been injured and lost their lives. Although there weren't as many people around the Sky Emperor as there were in the Devil Realm, they were all elites among elites. Usually, when they fought, they could fight against 10 or even 100 people. In addition, the allied army of the 4 realms had a lot of people, but they were all dispatched by the Heaven Emperor to set up inescapable encirclement in all directions. Now that the devil soldiers and devil generals were all gathered here, they naturally received the order to rush over. Amidst the chaos, more and more people from the 4 realms appeared, while the number of people from the devil realm decreased. Of course, the Celestial the Arch disdained to participate in such a chaotic battle. He quickly used a spell to extricate himself from the battle and led a dozen or so capable subordinates to chase after the 8 mythological beasts. The 8 mythological beasts surrounded Shen Yinma, but it was not easy for them to escape. Although the Shuang was in front of them, the enemy had sent too many people, and their strength was too strong. It could be said that within 100 miles of Mo Palace, there were arrays and ambushes set up by the allied army of the Four Realms. Moreover, a slight move in one part could affect the whole situation. Chapter 21-24. It could be said that within 100 miles of the Mo Palace, there were arrays and ambushes set up by the allied forces of the Four Realms. Moreover, the generals of the Four Realms had already received orders from their superiors to stop the 8 mythological beasts at all costs. Therefore, the 8 mythological beasts also encountered great obstacles on their way. The blood nether eagles at the front were almost always fighting. They formed a sharp cone shape to protect the 8 mythological beasts in the middle and then rushed forward. Countless people were killed and injured by their claws. Along the way there was a rain of blood, and the clouds along the way were blood red. Shen Yinma had been on Bai Zai's back with his little mouth tightly closed. Occasionally he would help to deal with the attacks in front of him. Because there were many enemies along the way and the attacks came from all directions, the blood nether eagles occasionally could not protect them. Naturally, the 8 mythological beasts would also help. They had used their divine power to set up a wizardry barrier to resist the powerful attacks of the Four Realms for half a month. In fact, the power of the 8 mythological beasts was almost exhausted, so their attacks were not very powerful. However, they were still trying their best to protect their young master. In fact, Bai Zai was still a little worried. It was afraid that little Nianma would not be able to accept the sacrifice of his own people and desperately want to go back to fight. By then, all the efforts of the Mo Palace would be in vain. The only child of the Divine Lord and the Great Devil would not be able to protect him. However, it did not expect little Nianma to sit steadily on its back. When he saw the subordinates of the Mo Palace who used to play with him sacrifice their lives to turn into the blood nether eagles, his little body trembled. Although he was very stiff, he was still very calm. He didn't do anything rash in the heat of the moment. This made Bai Zai feel relieved. The young master was indeed the son of the Divine Lord and the Great Devil. He was even calmer than an adult when he encountered a situation. Shen Yinma did not speak along the way. If Bai Zai could not sense that he was on its back, it would have thought that he had turned into a little stone statue. Bai Zai was still a little worried about his mood. It was afraid that he would fall sick when he suddenly encountered such a big change at such a young age. During the fight it would also comfort him. It said that the young master could cry if he was sad. Even if the young master cried, no one would laugh at him. Bai Zai had said something like this 3 or 4 times. Bai Zai, you don't have to say anything. I will not cry. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. Little Nianma finally spoke when Bai Zai was nagging for the 4th time. Although his voice was dry, it was very firm. His mother had said that crying was a sign of weakness, so he would never cry again. He no longer had any relatives in this world. What he needed the most was to be strong. Make himself stronger. Become even stronger. Only in this way could he be worthy of his mother, worthy of his father, and worthy of the title of the Son of God and Devil. Sooner or later, he would return as the king and reshuffle the 6 realms. Take revenge for everyone in the Mo Palace and trample on all the injustice in this world. Right now, all he had to do was survive. He clenched his teeth tightly and pursed his lips into a straight line. Occasionally, blood would splatter on his body, but he didn't seem to feel it. The troop formed by the blood nether eagles was like a sharp arrow, sweeping through everything in its path. No team could hurt them, and no team was unafraid of their 3 true flames. Therefore, even though smoke was billowing all the way, this special team still continued to advance. Chapter 21-25. Bai Zai used its claws to wipe off the blood on its eyelashes. It looked ahead and heaved a sigh of relief. Young master, we have broken through 5 lines of defense. There is only 1 left. As long as we break through this last line, we will be safe. We will bring you to the safest place to recuperate. Shen Yinma nodded and did not say anything else. Was there any place in this world that could be considered safe? Only by becoming an absolute powerhouse like his father and mother could he be considered safe. Only then could he have the final say in this world. Shouts and screams were heard from all directions. The soldiers in front of the 6th line of defense finally appeared and blocked their way. Both sides were too lazy to talk nonsense. Once they met, a white-hot fight broke out. The soldiers in the 6th line of defense did not manage to stop the bloody nether eagles. They were all killed by them. The bloody nether eagles flew up and down like burning wheels. While they were fighting with the soldiers who blocked their way, the sky suddenly began to rain heavily. It was like the Milky Way pouring down. The bloody nether eagles who were fighting were caught off guard and were drenched by the heavy rain. They screamed in pain. Their bodies began to melt as if they were poured with concentrated sulfuric acid. It was like a falling rain. The hearts of the 8 mythological beasts suddenly sank. The Milky Way water. The real Milky Way water. More than half of the bloody nether eagles were drenched by the Milky Way water. The 8 mythological beasts suddenly raised their heads and looked at the celestial emperor who was floating in front of them. Their eyes gradually turned red. There is no need to run anymore. The general next to the celestial emperor shouted angrily. Don't talk nonsense. Capture them first. The celestial emperor gave the order. At this time the 8 mythological beasts naturally did not want to talk nonsense with them. The more they talked, the more reinforcements would come. Although the 8 mythological beasts had never fought with the celestial emperor, they could judge how strong his kung fu was based on his aura. He was a strong opponent. A strong opponent who was difficult to deal with. This was a battle of life and death. If they won this battle, they would be able to live. If they lost, there was only one word: death. The celestial emperor naturally understood that this was a very important battle, and he needed to do it himself. He slowly took off his outer robe, and a resplendent glazed sword slowly appeared in his palm. As soon as this sword appeared, it shone brightly, almost illuminating half the sky. His gaze fell on Bai Zhe. He knew that it was the leader of the 8 beasts. You only have 2 options. Either surrender or die. If possible, he still wanted to subdue the 8 divine beasts. If he could use them in the future, he would be even more supreme in the 6 realms, second only to the supreme god. This was a huge temptation, so the celestial emperor didn't want to take the lives of the 8 mythological beasts unless it was absolutely necessary. As for the child that the 8 mythological beasts were protecting like an eyeball, he had to die. Cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots was not an empty phrase. It was something that every person in power would consider. Bai Zhe laughed. His laughter was like thunder as it rumbled through the air. We'll take the 3rd path and kill you as a scapegoat. 2/3 of the blood nether eagles were killed by the heavenly river water summoned by the celestial the arch. There were only a few dozen left. The Teng snake saw that the situation was not good, so it rose into the air and transformed into a gigantic umbrella in the air. It protected the remaining blood nether eagles and blocked the heavenly river water. The celestial emperor frowned slightly. It seemed that the supreme god and the demon master had tamed the 8 mythological beasts to be extraordinarily loyal. If that was the case, then he could only kill them. Chapter 21-26. He cast a spell, and the long sword in his hand flew directly into the air. It spun in the air and turned into thousands of swords. Each of the swords was pointed directly at the 8 mythological beasts and little Nianma. The 8 mythological beasts were also ready to fight. Although the 2 sides had not yet fought, the murderous aura in the field had stirred the surrounding clouds. The air was so heavy that it almost dripped water. Since you are so reckless, I will personally send you on your way. The long swords in the air formed a sword array like a dense rain, and with a fierce wind, they flew toward the 8 mythological beasts. This was the ultimate skill that the celestial emperor practiced. When he was wandering in the 6 realms, he used this skill to kill hundreds of masters in the monster kingdom. When this skill was used, everyone's face changed. The 8 mythological beasts looked up at the same time and spat out a ray of light from their mouths. 8 rays of light fanned out above their heads to protect them from the storm of swords. The sword array of the celestial emperor was obviously different from other sword arrays. It was unusually powerful. The 8 mythological beasts were indeed at the end of their rope. They tried their best, but they still could not withstand it. The light shield above their heads shook more and more violently. It was getting thinner and thinner. In the end, it gradually sounded like it was about to break. The 8 mythological beasts were bleeding from the corners of their mouths. Bai Zhe and its brothers looked at each other. Perhaps it was time for them to use their last trick. They could take out their souls and condense them into a beast. It was the most powerful beast in the world with the power to destroy the world. Not only could it protect their little master and escape easily, but it might also be able to kill the celestial emperor for revenge. The only drawback was that once they condensed into a beast, they would die, and the beast would also die within 8 days. By then, their little master would really be alone. This was a standard trick to perish together. If it was not such an emergency, they would not want to use it. Now it was not up to them. Their little master's life was more important than anything else. Young master, you have to take care. Bai Zhe whispered. Shen Yinma seemed to have a premonition. His little hands clenched tightly and grasped Bai Zhe's fur as if he was holding the only thing he could rely on. You. Don't leave me. Bai Zhe's heart ached and its anger rushed to the top of its head. We will not abandon you. We will transform into another form to protect you. Little master, you must be strong. Seeing that the seven-colored light above their heads was about to break, the 8 divine beasts looked at each other and knew that they couldn't delay any longer. Suddenly they turned around and arranged themselves in an octagonal formation. What they did not see was that Yi Qianli, who was behind Sky Emperor, had already pulled out his sword. Just as the 8 divine beasts were about to extract their souls, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky. In broad daylight there were actually golden red rays of light. The light was like a small sun that tore through the sky and fell from the sky. The sound was so powerful that it shook the entire world, causing everyone to tremble. Some of the weaker ones even had their eardrums broken by the sound, causing them to spit out blood. The celestial the Arch was also taken aback. His attention was diverted, and the sword formation was unable to pierce through. Everyone was blinded by the golden red light. This golden red light was extremely strange, and it gave off an extremely powerful pressure. As soon as it appeared, everyone's minds were shaken, and even the celestial Thearch's heart was beating wildly for no reason. His power was high, so he squinted his eyes to look at the source of the golden red light. In a trance, he saw that there seemed to be a slender figure wrapped in the golden red light. In the golden red light, the figure flew in their direction like a flash of lightning. Chapter 21-27. The Celestial Emperor was shocked. His fingers suddenly trembled. That figure seemed to be the Devil Master. The 8 mythological beasts were already in despair, but at this moment, they also opened their eyes wide and looked at the figure in disbelief. Their mouths were opened so wide that a basketball could be stuffed into them. The Devil Master. It was their Devil Master. Their leader, the Demon Master, had actually returned. Shen Yinma's eyes were wide open. Others were subconsciously afraid of the golden red light, but he was not. When the golden red light shone into his eyes, it made him feel warm and friendly. The person in the golden and red light was even more warm. The person who had been frozen in the blood coffin and had been burned. The person who he thought would never appear again. The person who did not want him anymore and left him alone. Mother. 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 He finally shouted out. His voice was hoarse and sharp, piercing straight into the sky and piercing into people's hearts. It made the hearts of the 8 mythological beasts tremble. After Shen Yinma shouted, he finally lost all his calmness. He desperately wanted to rush to the figure that was coming from afar. Bai Zhe was still calm. It opened its mouth and caught his little body. Then it threw him back on its body. Little master, calm down. The Celestial Emperor was standing opposite. If little Nianma rushed out, he would be caught as a hostage. It would be great if the Devil Master was back. At this time there must be no other accidents. In fact, the Celestial Emperor had forgotten to catch little Nianma at this time. The moment when he saw Ning Xuema appeared, his first thought was to retreat. He had once exchanged blows with this little demon master 2 years ago, and he had suffered a miserable defeat. Ning Xuema only wanted to take the territory of the Celestial Kingdom and defeat him. She did not want to kill him, so she let him go easily. But now, he had forced her child and her people to be in such a state. When the Devil Master knew the truth, she would pull out his tendons and skin him alive. He used the cloud steps and wanted to retreat, but Yi Qianli blocked his way. Yi Qianli looked at him with a faint smile. Your Majesty, the Demon Lord is not dead. She is here again. Should we take this opportunity to take her down? The Celestial the Arch. He was speechless. With this slight delay, Ning Xuema landed on Bai Zhe's back. Little Nianma cheered and rushed into her arms. Mother. 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 Perhaps because he was too agitated, his little body was trembling non-stop. He called out repeatedly, each call more urgent and hoarse than the last. In the end he simply burst into tears. Her tears flowed like a river, as if she wanted to cry out all the grievances and worries of the past few days. The woman was Ning Xuema. She lifted her arms to hug her son, and her fingers slowly touched her son's cheeks. Her son had lost weight. He had lost a lot of weight. Whose fault was it? Who had forced her son into such a state? Who was it that forced the 8 divine beasts into such a state? Who was it that forced her people into such a state? Although Ning Xuema had just been reborn in this world, All her memories were still there. She was also very smart. Although she did not experience the previous things, she understood what had happened when she saw the current scene. She slowly looked at the people in front of her, and her eyes were as cold as iron. Chapter 21-28. The Celestial Emperor and the others felt a chill in their hearts when she glanced at them. They could not help but take a few steps back. Especially the Celestial Emperor, his face was even paler. He used to think that his sword was very powerful, but now he felt that it was a little heavy. He held the sword and did not know if he should keep it or keep it. At this time he missed Luo Jiuchen very much. If he was here, he would not be afraid even if the Devil King returned. Now that he could not contact Luo Jiuchen, he did not have the confidence to face the Devil King again. After a pause, he decided to strike first. Devil King, you came back at the right time. The 8 mythological beasts robbed the prison and killed many soldiers. So, you joined forces with the other 3 realms to attack Imo Palace? Moreover, he had personally dealt with a child? Yunlang, you're really capable. Ning Xuema finally opened her mouth. Her voice was light as a feather, but it carried a dense chill. She was a martial arts expert, and she saw the move made by the Celestial Emperor when she was in the air. Once the move hit, not only would the 8 mythological beasts die, but little Nianma would also disappear directly. Even the child's soul would not be left behind. It was an eye-opener for the dignified Celestial Emperor to be so cruel to a child. Yun Lang was the Celestial Emperor's real name. Every time she called him that, it was when she was angry and was about to attack. The Celestial Emperor felt a chill in his heart. He gritted his teeth and explained, I just want to catch your son and bring him back for interrogation because someone said that the 8 mythological beasts were under his command, so, Ning Xuema smiled. Just an interrogation? Yes. Before the Celestial Emperor could finish his answer, the red light in front of him suddenly dazzled. This move was like a move that flew from the sky. It was ethereal and indescribable. Even lightning could not compare with its speed. The Celestial Emperor was shocked and hurriedly dodged. The red light swept past his hair. His black hair was dancing wildly, and his scalp was burning with pain. The Celestial Emperor subconsciously touched it and almost blacked out. His high-feathered crown was split in half by the red light, and half of his hair was shaved off by the red light. He was now half bald and it was a bloody bald head. A layer of his scalp had also been shaved off. Fresh blood flowed out and the pain was bone-piercing. Actually, he could tolerate all of this, but what he couldn't tolerate the most was his comical appearance. He had never been so humiliated in his entire life. He had never been so humiliated before. Back when he was sealing the Purple Demon, he had been in the Purple Demon formation for 3 days and 3 nights, but he was not in such a sorry state. The people around the Celestial Emperor were also stunned. This was the first time they had seen the Heavenly Emperor, who had always been dignified and awe-inspiring, beaten to such a state by someone with a single move. The Heavenly Emperor's appearance was simply destroying their worldview. Everyone was amused and shocked at the same time. Half of the people present knew about the Celestial Emperor's martial arts. Before the gods and demons were reborn, he was the most powerful person in the 6 realms. He was invincible in the world. Coupled with his extreme means, he went through many hardships to become the most powerful person in the celestial world. Later, when Yi Tianli was born, Yunlang was already the Celestial Emperor. Naturally, he would not fight with Yi Tianli. No matter how arrogant Yi Tianli was, he could not challenge him. Therefore, although Yi Tianli was called the most powerful person in the 6 realms, the Celestial Emperor was not included. Before the gods and demons and the demigods appeared, no one dared to challenge the Celestial Emperor's authority. The Celestial Emperor had always maintained his authority. Chapter 21-29. Even when Xuema the Great Devil appeared 3 years ago, she did not embarrass the Heavenly Emperor. Even when the Heavenly Emperor was defeated, no one saw it. Now, this incomparably dignified and inviolable Celestial Emperor had actually been beheaded and skinned by a single sword strike. The Heavenly Emperor did not even have a chance to escape. The Great Devil's kung fu seemed to have improved a lot. It could only be described as terrifying. Even the demigod Luo Jiuchen would be afraid of such a kung fu. Needless to say, the rest of the people were even more afraid. Ning Xuema's move had shocked everyone. The King of Hell, the Emperor of Man, and the Beast King could not help but step back quietly. The Heavenly Emperor raised his hand to touch the blood. He was even more shocked. He was ashamed and frightened at the same time. You, Ning Xuema carried little Nianma in one hand and the sky splitter sword in the other. She did not look at the heavenly emperor but coaxed her son. Baby, do you want to learn the dog-beating sword technique from me? Little Nianma's little hands tightly grasped her clothes as if he was afraid that she would run away. He was already out of breath from crying, but when he saw the heavenly emperor's strange posture, he laughed with tears in his eyes. When he heard his mother's question, he nodded and answered loudly, yes. Well, if you want it, then stay here and watch. I will show you. If you see the mad dog again, you can do it yourself. Ning Xuema's voice was gentle. Okay. Little Nianma nodded and obediently let his mother put him on by Zhe. Although his eyes were still full of tears, they were already wide open. The heavenly emperor suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He suddenly took a step back. Great devil. Don't do anything stupid. Ning Xuema weighed the sword in her hand, her charming face full of smiles. Yunlang, let's put everything else aside for now. You scared my son, so I'll have to coax him. I'll have to trouble you to come with me. Don't worry, we'll only compare notes, just like how you only want to interrogate him. We won't be serious. Before the heavenly emperor could speak, Ning Xuema's body flashed and she had already made her move. It comes like thunder, withdraws in anger, and withdraws like the clear light of the rivers and seas. He was talking about Ning Xuema's swordsmanship and martial arts skills. Her sword attack was too fast, and the celestial emperor had no chance to resist at all. He wanted to call for the guards around him, but Ning Xuema's sword light was pressing down on him, and he couldn't be distracted at all. He could only risk his life. Their swords were shining with a rainbow light and a red light. When they fought, they would fill the sky like fireworks. It was a very beautiful sight. However, no one saw it as a firework, because every single light from these fireworks was fatal. The Sky Emperor's guards wanted to rush up to protect the Emperor, but they were stopped by Yi Tianli. Everyone, His Majesty is now sparring with the Demon Lord. It's not appropriate for us to go up. It will bring shame to His Majesty's reputation. All the guards, they looked at each other. Recently, His Majesty thought highly of Sir God Yi Tianli. Since he said so, there was no need for them to fight, right? Thus, all the guards were at ease as they watched from the side. Nianma, do you see this? This is called turning back to pick the dog. Nianma, look at this. This is called driving the dog into a corner. Nianma, I will teach you another move. This is called closing the door and beating the dog. Nianma, the heavenly emperor was rendered speechless by Ning Xuema's wind-like attacks. However, every time Ning Xuema made a move, she would say something, and every move she made was inseparable from the word dog. Chapter 21:30. No matter how calm and composed the celestial emperor was, he was so angry that his heart was trembling. Devil Master, don't go too far. He finally blurted out during the fight. And he also paid the price for being distracted and saying those words. Ning Xuema swung her sword and cut off 5 of the celestial emperor's fingers. He groaned and blood spurted out. Ouch! You are red. I accidentally hurt you. I am sorry, I will be more careful in the future. Ning Xuema's voice was clear and crisp. She added, Nianma, the move you just used is called reverse dog paw. The celestial emperor was speechless. Her pretty face was always smiling, and even her voice was soft and gentle. However, her moves were extremely cruel. For the celestial emperor, every move she made was a humiliation. However, she had been using the pretense of a friendly match. If it was really a friendly match, she could defeat him within 10 moves. However, she was not in a hurry to kill him. She did not even give the celestial emperor any chance to speak. Every time the celestial emperor wanted to speak, he would be greeted by a storm of attacks from her. He could not even say a word. It was simply a one-sided beating. In less than half an hour, the celestial emperor lost a part of his arm. He was stabbed in the ribs, half of his pants were torn, and a piece of flesh was cut off from his calf. Every move she made had a name for it. Every move had the word dog in it. Every move had an explanation. Every time she hurt the celestial emperor, she would smile apologetically and apologize. Then she would continue to beat him mercilessly. After 20 moves, the celestial emperor's body was covered with wounds. He was almost turned into a human stick. The celestial emperor's guards could not hold back anymore. They knew that it was useless to fight now, so they began to urge Yi Tianli. Yi Tianli sighed and finally pulled out his sword. He asked, Your Majesty, do you need me to help you in your duel? The heavenly emperor was suppressed by Ning Xuema to the point that he could not speak. Therefore Yi Tianli spread his hands and said, Your Majesty does not need our help. It is just a friendly match. Don't take it seriously. The guards of the Celestial Emperor. Little Nianma's eyes sparkled as he looked at them from Bai Zai's back. He had been depressed for the past few days and had almost forgotten how to smile. Now that he saw the Heavenly Emperor being taken care of, he could finally hold his head high. The corners of her lips finally revealed a slight smile. That smile grew wider and wider until her little mouth looked like a bean pod. When he saw the exciting part, he couldn't help but clap his hands. Mother, let's do another, drive the dog into a dead end. I didn't see this move clearly. As a result, Ning Xuema's sword light flashed. As expected, it was another move. The flickering sword light cut off one of the Celestial Thearch's ears. I'm sorry. Swords have no eyes and I hurt you again. Actually, I just wanted to spar with you and teach my son. Ning Xuema withdrew her hand with a smile. The Celestial the Arch. He could barely stand. If it were an ordinary sword wound, the Celestial the Arch would be able to heal it quickly even without bandaging it. However, Ning Xuema had used the Sky Splitter sword to fight him. Even the Divine Lord had not recovered from her sword for a long time, let alone the Celestial Emperor. Bang. The only thing he could feel was pain. His whole body was in pain. It was as if he was being cut into pieces. It was so painful that his face was pale and he was on the verge of collapsing. It was comparable to having his tendons pulled out and his skin cut off. He opened his mouth and struggled to reach out his bloody hand. He forced himself to say, "Antidote." Chapter 2131. Ning Xuema shrugged. Sorry, I've just been reborn and haven't refined any antidote yet. You can wait. Great. Long live the Devil Master. Long live the Devil Master. Devil Master, you're finally back. There was a hubbub of voices all around. Everyone was shouting excitedly. Ning Xuema turned her head to look. It turned out that the survivors of Mo Palace had all rushed over. Everyone looked excited and some even had tears in their eyes. Ning Xuema's flashy appearance not only shocked the Celestial Thearch's group, but also shocked the people from the Four Realms who were attacking Manager He Mu. Little Devil Master Imo was fighting in the Six Realms 3 years ago and became the nightmare of many people. They knew that once she was reborn she would definitely take revenge. In their shock their attacks slowed down. Meanwhile, Manager He Mu and the other demons were already prepared to die. Now that they saw their Devil Master descending from the sky, they were wild with joy. When they were at their most desperate, their true savior came. Moreover, this savior was their backbone. Who wouldn't be excited? Many demons burst into tears on the spot. Especially some female demons, their tears were even glistening. Third Guardian Gong Yu Ing sent a netherworld person flying with her sword. Damn it, don't be so useless. Why are you crying? She said she wouldn't cry, but when she raised her hand to wipe her face, she wiped away her tears. Manager He Mu shouted, "Brothers and sisters, our Devil Master is here. Let's go and welcome her." He took the lead and rushed forward. At this time, Mo Palace's troops seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They were already exhausted, but now they suddenly had an endless amount of energy. They shouted and roared as they rushed in that direction together. However, the people attacking them were all uneasy. They didn't know if they should still fight this battle. While they were distracted, Mo Palace's people had already run away. A few people from the Four Realms who were blocking the front couldn't dodge in time and were kicked away. After Mo Palace's troops ran away, the generals of the Four Realms looked at each other and also rushed over. Therefore, whether it was the people of Mo Palace or the people of the Four Realms, they all saw the scene of Ning Xuema beating up the Celestial Emperor. The people of the Mo Palace had been besieged by the people of the Four Realms for so long. They had been sullen for so long, and they had even been in despair for so long. Seeing this was simply too satisfying. It felt so good. Especially the names of Ning Xuema's moves, they felt as if they had eaten an iced watermelon during the hottest days of the summer. They felt so good from head to toe. If head steward He Mu hadn't instructed them not to make any noise that would affect their Devil Master's beating, they would have long since roared with laughter. Because the battle between Ning Xuema and the Celestial the Arch did not last long, most of these people had only seen the end of the battle, and they were still not satisfied. Seeing that the Celestial Emperor had failed to ask for the antidote, the troops of the Mo Palace were simply too happy. It was as if their hearts were filled with boiling water. Everyone wanted to dance wildly around their Devil Lord to be satisfied. As for the people of the Four Realms, they were all looking at each other and didn't know what to do next. Ning Xuema had returned to Bai Zai's back. She hugged her son who wanted to dance on Baize's back, and kissed his little face. Nianma, how is it? Have you learned the set of dog-beating swordsmanship? Shin Nianma was exhilarated. He hugged his mother's neck and smiled brighter than the flowers. Mother, your set of swordsmanship is great. I have learned most of it. Chapter 2132. Ning Xuema stretched out her finger and pointed at his forehead. Little fool, you can't just learn the whole thing. You have to learn the essence of it completely so that you can use it flexibly in the future. Then you won't have to be afraid of wild dogs. Are there still a few moves that you haven't remembered? Don't you understand? Shin Yanma nodded honestly. Well, Mother has demonstrated a total of 28 moves, and I have remembered 18 of them. Ning Xuema smiled. It doesn't matter. I will find someone to demonstrate it to you again. Then you will understand. She glanced at Ren Huang Yama and the Beast Emperor. Which one of you wants to practice with me? Her eyes were clear, and her tone was even gentle, as if she was talking about the weather today. However, when the three of them were swept by her gaze, they shuddered and took a step back. At this time, the people of the four worlds finally understood that the great Devil Master was looking for a practice partner for her son. In fact, she was avenging the Devil Kingdom and her son. These three people's kung fu was far inferior to the Celestial Emperor. If the Celestial Emperor was beaten so badly, the three of them would be even more useless. Together, they came up with all sorts of excuses to shirk away from the responsibility. When the people of the Devil Kingdom saw them, they naturally laughed and scolded them viciously. At this time, the three of them could only grit their teeth and pretend to be deaf and dumb. They would rather admit that they were cowards than accept the challenge. Ning Xuema looked at them with her arms crossed. Although her face was always smiling, her eyes were extremely cold. How dare they bully her subordinates when she was not around? They bullied her son. Before she traveled to this world, her son was still fair and tender. His little face was as round as an apple. She had not seen her son for only half a month, but he had become so thin. His small arms and legs were like sticks, and his neck was so big that even his hair had lost its luster. He was even thinner than Lu Yu. When she suddenly saw her son's appearance, her heart was twisted into a fried dough twist. The pain was unbearable. She did not even want to touch the baby in her hand, but he was forced to such a state by the Celestial Emperor. If she came a moment later, she was afraid that her son would have lost his life here. No one could bully her people and escape unscathed. No one could do it. She glanced at the three rulers and asked, "Where's my son? I'm definitely going to teach him today. I'm just asking you to be my sparring partners, yet you're making all kinds of excuses. Are you not giving me face?" His words made the three rulers' faces turn pale. Among them, the human emperor was more quick-witted. He tried his best to evade the topic. "Demon Lord, the sparring is a small matter. We're only here to seek justice for the immortal realm." Demon Lord, Ning Xuema's lips curved into a smile as she interrupted him. "Is it fair? Of course, I have to give you all justice, but teaching my son is equally important. It's rare to meet so many experts here, and they're even more complete than the invitation. If I don't ask for your advice, wouldn't it be a great regret?" The human emperor was tongue-tied and he couldn't help but say, "Demon Lord, you're making things difficult for us. Do you know who the Demon Lord is? You're second only to a god. How can we be your opponent? The Devil Lord is forcing a battle. Isn't that bullying?" Ning Xuema's eyes turned cold. "Is this bullying? Then what's the point of the four realms joining forces to deal with a child who's not even half a year old? What's the point of killing such a young child?" The human emperor. His face turned red and he couldn't answer for a moment. Chapter 2133. Hell King added, We just want to catch the 8 mythical beasts that caused trouble. As for your son, we just want to invite him to the immortal realm to clarify some things. We don't have any intention to harm him." Bullshit. Full of nonsense. Who invites him like this? You guys keep saying that you want to catch the son of the demon god, okay? The people from the demon realm immediately scolded and exposed his lies. Ning Xuema listened for a moment and raised her hand. The demon stopped scolding. She waved the sky splitter sword in her hand and glanced at the three of them. She smiled gently, "So you guys think so highly of my son. As his mother, shouldn't I feel happy? Come, to thank you guys, I will teach you a few moves. Don't worry, I will stop when I'm done." A red light flashed and pounced towards the Beast Emperor. The Beast Emperor turned pale with fright and was forced to fight. Ning Xuema swung her sword in a circle and pulled the Hell King, who wanted to take advantage of the chaos to escape. She then turned around and pulled the human emperor into the circle. In less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Ning Xuema finally finished practicing the dog-beating swordsmanship and stopped fighting with the three emperors. Ning Xuema was very trustworthy. She really stopped when she was done. She pierced them like porcupines. The three of them were covered with wounds. There was almost no place on their bodies that was not cut. They were all pierced by the sword. Their clothes were also pierced like a fishing net. The three of them were also in so much pain that they could not speak. The human emperor was the most cowardly. He was held by the guards beside him and could not even stand. Of course, in the fight just now, the three emperor's guards wanted to rush up and save their lord. However, Yi Tianli and the few hermits he summoned were watching them. As long as they made a slight move, they would be stopped by Yi Tianli and the others. They said that the king's competition was about face. Even if they lost, they had to lose in glory. They could not call for help or else they would be cowards. Yi Tianli and the others were rare experts in the world. How could they not stop them? Therefore, the guards could only watch helplessly as their lord was taught a lesson by the devil master. Now it was full of holes. These four people could be said to be powerful figures in the six realms. Now that they were beaten up in public, their prestige in the past was gone. They could not wait to find a hole to hide in. But now, there was no hole for them to hide in because Ning Xuema was not finished. After Ning Xuema finished dealing with the four leaders, she shocked everyone present. The people of the four realms felt a chill in their hearts. It was not that they did not think of ganging up on him, but with this devil lord here, they might not be his match even if they ganged up on him. What's more, behind the demon lord, there were 2,000 to 3,000 powerful demons, dozens of blood nether eagles, and Yi Tianli, who was unknown whether he was a friend or a foe. More importantly, their lord did not give them an order. Compared to the demon's joy, the generals of the four realms still felt incomparably indignant when they saw their lord being cultivated to such a state. Everyone felt that this demon master had gone too far. A warrior could be killed but not humiliated. This demon lord had humiliated the four emperors. Their lord was humiliated like this, they felt like they were slapped in the face. They stood behind their lord with a gloomy face. Many people had the idea of fighting for their lives. It was not for anything else but for justice. Especially those people from the immortal world, they were all sad and angry. They looked at Ning Xuema with eyes full of hatred. Chapter 2134. One of the immortals who hated evil stood out from the crowd. Devil Master, you're so mighty. You're so capable. You're so domineering just because you're born with an advantage. No matter how great the power in this world is, it can't be more powerful than reason. Devil Master, you bully people with your fists. Even if you defeat everyone, you might not be able to win people's hearts. His voice was impassioned. All the living beings in the six realms won't submit to you. Ning Xuema glanced at him and recognized that he was a famous immortal in the celestial world. His name was Wuxia, and he was known for his righteousness and his hatred of evil. Ning Xuema faintly smiled. She absent-mindedly waved the sword in her hand. You actually dare to speak to me like this? Aren't you afraid of death? The pressure from her body directly pressed towards that immortal. Those who were slightly weaker would have been forced to the ground by her. Wuxia held his head high and threw caution to the wind. I only respect those who deserve respect. Since I dared to say this, I've already disregarded life and death. Ning Xuema clapped her hands lightly and laughed instead of being angry. Good. You're a man of steel. I'll talk to you. Do you think it's reasonable for the celestial world to join forces with the other three realms to attack Imo Palace and capture a child who's not even half a year old? Is it righteous to bully a child? Wuxia was stunned. Your son is not an ordinary person. He's the reincarnation of an evil star. His power is already incomparable to that of ordinary people. He'll bring disaster to the six realms. Ning Xuema had been smiling, but at this moment, her pretty face suddenly darkened. Which mother would be angry when she heard someone else talk about her child like this? Before she could say anything, the demon general beside her was furious. Nonsense. Although our young master is smarter than ordinary people, that's because he's the son of a god and a demon. He's a genius. What reincarnation of an evil star? I think you're the reincarnation of a jinx. The jinx of your 6 family members. That's right. Not only is he the reincarnation of a jinx, but he's also the reincarnation of a god of plague. People in the devil world were generally hot-tempered and liked to do things directly. There were many boorish and hot-blooded men. Once they started scolding someone, they could really hurt someone's grandma. He scolded Nie Wuchang until his face turned ashen. With his status, he naturally disdained to argue with others like this. He only sneered. Ning Xuemo raised her hand to stop the demons from cursing. She glanced at Nie Wuchang and said in a cold voice, Nie Wuchang, you should have evidence before you speak. What are you trying to do by slandering a child? Where did you get the idea that he is the reincarnation of a malefic star? Nie Wuchang said proudly, of course I'm not saying this for no reason. It's said by Lord Luo, who is going to be the master of the 6 realms. He got this maxim from the heavenly Tao stone. Because of this, His Majesty risked universal condemnation to capture a child in order to save the 6 realms. He's not just bullying the weak. He's doing this for the safety of the 6 realms. Ning Xuema narrowed her eyes. Venerable Luo? Heavenly Tao stone? That's right. His Majesty got this idea from Venerable Luo himself. It can't be false. Ning Xuema coldly smiled. So you heard it from the Heavenly Emperor's mouth? How can you be so sure that the Heavenly Emperor didn't use this as an excuse to trick you into going on an expedition to capture a child? Even if it's really Luo Jiuqin who said this, he must be lying. Only the real master of the world can communicate with the Heavenly Tao stone. Luo Jiuqin has never ascended to that position. Chapter 2135. Nie Wuchang could not help but stare at the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor gritted his teeth and remained silent. Yi Qianli, who was next to him, suddenly spoke, Your Majesty and I decided on this statement after discussing it. It has nothing to do with Lord Luo. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Countless eyes looked at Yi Qianli. The Celestial Emperor did not care about the pain and said angrily, Nonsense. Yi Qianli, I have always treated you well. I did not expect that you would slander me today just to please the Devil Master. I clearly heard this from Venerable Luo, so how could I have discussed it with you? Yi Qianli glanced at him and slowly took out a blue magic conch from his arms. He clicked on a certain spot and a conversation was transmitted from the magic conch. Your Majesty, Shen Yinma is a child after all. He is also the son of the Celestial God and the Devil Master. I am afraid that you will be criticized by the 6 realms if you punish a child like this. The voice belonged to Yi Qianli. It doesn't matter. I will just fabricate a reason for him to be killed. What about the reincarnation of the Devil Master? Just say that he is the reincarnation of the Purple Devil Master. The world is very afraid of the Purple Devil Master. This accusation will certainly stop people from talking about it. This was the Celestial Emperor's voice. I don't understand. Your Majesty, it is fine to catch the 8 mythological beasts. Why do you have to catch the child? He is still so young. He is the son of the Celestial God and the Devil Master. His mother died in prison. Who knows if he will seek revenge on the Celestial Kingdom when he grows up? Qianli, you have always been smart. Don't you understand the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots? The magic conch's voice was not soft. Everyone present could hear it. Everyone looked at the Celestial Emperor with a strange expression. The Celestial Emperor's face turned pale. Fake. You are clearly framing him. Your Majesty, this is the truth conch. Once it leaves a message, no spell can change it. Yi Qianli said coldly. The Celestial Emperor was speechless. Nie Wuchang felt like he had been slapped in the face. His belief in the Celestial Emperor collapsed by half. His face turned red and after a while he said, Your Majesty was wrong to want to kill your son, but the Devil Lord was also wrong first. The 6 realms have their own laws. The Devil Lord poisoned the princess at the banquet and caused her to die an unnatural death. Naturally, he should be imprisoned and dealt with later. However, the 8 divine beasts broke into the prison and killed so many heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, committing a heinous crime. No matter what, our immortal realm is the army of justice. Head Steward Heimu raised his head and laughed. Righteous. The dignified celestial world hunted down a child who was not even half a year old. How could they be called righteous? Are you trying to smear the name of justice? Nonsense. He is not an ordinary child. He is the son of the devil. It was he who ordered the 8 devil beasts to break into the prison and kill so many innocent immortal generals. He gave the order? What evidence do you have to prove that it was our young master who gave the order? This? If he didn't give the order when the Devil Lord was locked up in the heavenly prison, who was the one who sent the 8 demonic beasts? Head Steward Heimu's voice turned cold. It's me. You are ungrateful. You captured our Devil Lord, and you don't even allow us to save him? The immortal realm claims to be righteous, But what you are doing now is not righteous or benevolent at all. Our Devil Lord risked his life to seal Zisha a few days ago and saved the 6 realms from disaster. It's fine if you don't know how to be grateful, but you actually burned the bridge after crossing it. You captured him and locked him up in the prison without any explanation. Our young master is the son of the devil, but he is also the son of the supreme God. Chapter 2136. The supreme divinity immortalized in order to save the world and seal Zisha. Shouldn't his child be treated well by the 6 realms? But what did you do? You killed his mother. You even wanted to kill him. How can you call yourself righteous? You're clearly taking advantage of our Devil Lord's misfortune to take over the Devil Realm's territory, yet you insist on using the banner of righteousness. Do you think everyone in the 6 realms is blind? The Celestial Emperor's face was livid. He finally said, "Sophistry. After all, it was your Devil Lord who killed her first. I invited her to the banquet out of goodwill, but she poisoned the princess because of a quarrel. Even if she deserves credit for sealing Zisha, she can't be so lawless. Naturally, she has to give the Celestial Court an explanation." Haha, who do you think you can fool with that? Our Devil Lord only attended your banquet because she gave you face. Our Devil Lord has always been magnanimous and won't stoop to the level of petty people. Why would she take the princess's life because of a quarrel? Let's say that our Devil Lord was angered by your sister and wanted to kill her. She could have done it with a wave of her hand. Why did she have to poison him? It's obvious that someone with ulterior motives is framing her. Even a 3-year-old child can understand such a simple logic. Don't you understand, Celestial Emperor? Did your head get squeezed by a door? What's the reason for locking him up in the Imperial prison without a second word? If our Devil Lord really did such a thing, would she obediently wait for you to capture her? With her ability, it shouldn't be difficult for her to escape your capture, right? But she didn't. She dared to imprison you because she had a clear conscience. She thought that the Celestial Realm has always been known for being fair and strict and would give her an explanation and clear her name. But you killed her in the Imperial prison. Do you really think there's no one in the Devil Realm? Our Devil Lord was wronged, so of course we had to save her. You killed her. The 8 divine beasts have already given you enough face by not massacring the Celestial Realm. General Manager Himu was also eloquent. He choked the Celestial Emperor with a few words. The Celestial Emperor said angrily, "There were witnesses and material evidence at that time. It's useless to quibble. Also, your Devil Lord was clearly here. How was she killed?" Ning Xuema, who had been watching the fight from the sidelines, finally spoke slowly, "I did die in the prison. As for returning here now, it's because I escaped death and was reborn." Everyone. Ning Xuema had appeared with the golden red light. This was something that everyone had seen. Indeed, it looked very much like a rebirth. Ning Xuema flicked her finger and smiled leisurely. "As for what you said about me killing your sister, do you think someone like her is worth my time?" That's right. The Celestial Emperor and his sister have always been on bad terms. They don't interact with each other at all. That sister often speaks ill of the Celestial Emperor behind his back. I heard that the siblings often quarrel because of this. Who knows if the Celestial Emperor didn't do it this time? He poisoned his own sister and put the blame on our Devil Master. This is a plan that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Yes, that must be it. I heard that there are still many righteous people in the immortal world. Now that they are being used by a despicable person, I'm afraid they don't feel good about it. The Lord of the immortal world should also be a selfless role model. But now she's saying one thing and doing another. It really makes people look down on her. I wonder if the others in the immortal world would feel angry to have such a lord? The demons immediately became noisy again. Chapter 2137. The Celestial Emperor was so angry that his face turned as red as a pig's liver. Ning Xuema clapped her hands to silence the crowd. Then she slowly said, "This? You have misunderstood the Celestial Emperor. He did not do it. There's someone else behind this." She turned to ask little Nianma, "Nianma, do you still have my things?" She was reborn, not repossessed. Therefore, she did not have the things in the storage space of the original body. Shin Nianma nodded. "I've kept all of Mother's things." A moment later, Ning Xuema also got a magic conch. It was the same kind as the one that Yi Tianli had. The recording was the conversation between her and Luo Jiuqin in the prison. Everything. The truth was revealed. The people from the 4 worlds looked at each other. Not only was the Celestial Emperor's face as red as an eggplant, But even the soldiers around him felt that their faces were burning. Most of these people did not know the inside story. When the Celestial Emperor sent the troops, the reason he gave was very reasonable. Therefore, everyone thought that they were indeed the righteous ones. Now they felt like they had been slapped in the face. They felt that they were not strong enough to stand there. The Celestial Emperor's face turned green, but he did not say anything. Not many of his former subordinates stayed by his side. They all kept a distance from him. As for the other three kings, they all looked as if they suddenly realized that they had been used this time. They bowed and apologized to Ning Xuema. At this time, it was not shameful for them to find a way out. Ning Xuema smiled and ignored them. She looked at General Manager Heimu and asked, "How many people did the Devil Kingdom lose this time?" General Manager Heimu was a capable man. He had already calculated the number of people and reported to Ning Xuema truthfully, "Devil Master, this time including the Blood Nether Eagles, the Mo Palace lost a total of 1,688 people." It was a tragic number. Ning Xuema nodded slightly. She glanced at the Blood Nether Eagles and said, "They don't have to be included. I can restore them." The remaining Blood Nether Eagle's eyes suddenly lit up. Even General Manager Heimu widened his eyes and stared at his Devil Master in disbelief. Ning Xuema flicked her sleeves and said, "Other than those who can be saved, our Mo Palace has lost a total of 1,500 people. These people can't be sacrificed in vain. I still have to get back at them." The expressions of the people from the celestial world changed. Someone couldn't help but say, "We lost more people than you, nearly 10,000. You are invaders. No matter how many of you die, your deaths will be in vain." Ning Xuema said straightforwardly, "The Immortals?" That was indeed the case. Since they had invaded and defeated the other party, they naturally had no right to negotiate with the other party. They could only allow the other party to name their price. "Could it be that the Devil Lord wants to kill another 1,500 of us?" Someone asked cautiously. The corners of Ning Xuema's lips curled up. Since this is a war, military orders must be obeyed. The ordinary soldiers are just following orders. It has nothing to do with them. I will not punish ordinary soldiers. As soon as she said this, all the soldiers heaved a sigh of relief. However, the four generals' hearts were all on edge. Could it be that the Devil Lord wants to kill all 1,500 of them? The problem was that even if they counted all the generals, it still wouldn't be enough. Ning Xuema's gaze was like ice as it swept past the generals of the four realms. "You have a total of 420 people. Since you were all deceived by others and obeyed orders, I won't kill you all. You can break one of your arms and barely make up for it." Chapter 2138. Although Ning Xuema's conditions were cruel, they were reasonable and fair. Rewards and punishments were clear. No one was dissatisfied and no one dared to be dissatisfied. After all, they were still alive, right? These people were all generals and they were not afraid of pain or death. Therefore, after half an hour, the army of the four worlds retreated, leaving only a pile of bloody arms. Before they left, Ning Xuema left behind a few words for them. A few words that made their balls hurt and made them not dare to rebel again. In order to prevent everyone from going back on their words and causing trouble for the Mo Palace, I have spread a bone-corroding poison in the air. It will enter upon contact with blood. If you don't have my special antidote, you will die within 10 days. Everyone was speechless. Broken walls, broken bones and flesh were everywhere. The Mo Palace that used to be filled with flowers and brocade now looked like hell. Ning Xuema carried little Nianma to the training ground of the Mo Palace. She looked at the collapsed palace and the ground that was full of ravines. She was lost in thought. General Manager Heimu was worried that she would be sad. "Devil Master, don't worry. As long as the people are still alive, the Mo Palace can be rebuilt." Ning Xuema nodded slightly. The palace could be rebuilt, but what about the people? Could they come back? Not far away, the Crimson Nether Eagles stood in a row on a broken shelf. They were originally devils, but in order to protect their young master, they used a forbidden spell to turn into the Crimson Nether Eagles. They only had 3 days to live. Now that they were back, they actually wanted to go back to the house where they used to live. However, they could not go back in this form. They stood there in a daze. They still had consciousness. Pairs of eyes looked at Ning Xuema, but there was a desire to live. Ning Xuema inwardly sucked in a breath of air before instructing head steward Heimu to prepare all kinds of magic tools she needed. She wanted to transform these Nether Eagles back. General Manager Heimu agreed and immediately went to prepare. After the chaos, there were many things waiting to be done. All the devils in Mo Palace were busy healing their wounds and rebuilding. Most of them had mixed feelings. They should be happy that they survived the disaster, but many of their relatives and friends died in this disaster. They could not be happy. But fortunately, the Devil Master had returned. They once again had a pillar of support and there was hope again. The only thing that made them nervous was the fake god. That person was a very powerful existence. He had always been at odds with the Devil Master. He always schemed against them, which made them worried. However, in this incident, that person did not appear. This made the devils feel relieved, but they were also a little worried. However, the devils had always been generous. This time they were able to return safely. It was equivalent to keeping their lives. If there was a disaster in the future, a scar as big as a bowl would be left on his head, but he was not afraid. Tianli, thank you for this time. Ning Xuema thanked Yi Tianli, who was walking beside her. A large part of her previous plan was planned together with Yi Tianli. Yi Tianli had secretly sent her the shell of truth after she was sent to prison. He had helped her when she was at her most dangerous time. The secret tunnel that led to the outside world was also created by Yi Tianli. This made it easier for the 8 mythological beasts to enter the prison to save her. Yi Tianli had been secretly helping her. For her, he went to the Sky Emperor's side as a spy and successfully gained the Sky Emperor's trust. This made the Sky Emperor put him in an important position and told him all kinds of secrets. This allowed him to find the Sky Emperor's weakness and expose his conspiracy. Chapter 2139. More than a dozen of his hermit friends were helping the Celestial Emperor in the process of besieging the Mo Palace, but in fact they had secretly helped little Nianma to escape several times. If Ning Xuema did not appear in time, Yi Tianli would have been ready to pull out his sword when little Nianma was really in danger. He wanted to plot against the Celestial Emperor. Even if he could not kill him, he could at least injure him and create a chance for little Nianma to escape. Of course, if that happened, he would be completely exposed. There was only one word waiting for him: death. Fortunately, Ning Xuema appeared at the critical moment. He also successfully exposed the conspiracy of the Celestial Emperor and Luo Jiuchen with her and helped Ning Xuema to clear her name. However, his identity as a spy was also exposed, and he could no longer return to the Celestial Kingdom. Brother Yi, I am sorry. Ning Xuema could not help but sigh. You can't go back to the Celestial Kingdom because of me. Yi Tianli smiled gently as usual. Xuema, you don't have to be polite with me. I have always treated you as a friend. Besides, I don't like what the Celestial Emperor did. As for Lord Luo, he does not have the magnanimity of a master of heaven and earth. It is better not to protect him. I only want to be worthy of my friends and my conscience. I don't care about anything else. Ning Xuema smiled. Even she did not expect to become a real friend with Yi Tianli. She glanced at his wrist. Your hand. How is it? Yi Tianli moved his wrist. It is fine now and there is not much difference from before. Don't worry. By the way, Xuema, why did you cut off the arms of those generals? Are you really avenging the Devil Assembly? You have to know that they were actually following orders. Yi Tianli was a little confused about this. Ning Xuema did not hide it from him. Revenge is only one thing. The more important thing is to weaken their combat power. I don't know why Luo Jiuchen has not shown up. This person has always been a hidden danger. I don't know what he is planning behind the scenes. We have to be careful of him instigating the 4 worlds to attack the Mo Palace again. Those generals were the mainstay during the war. Now that they are injured and poisoned, they are powerless to attack the Mo Palace again. They will definitely hold back. Yi Tianli could not help but laugh. Maybe there will be people who are afraid of death. In order to get your antidote, they will come to the 4 realms as soon as there is a disturbance, right? Ning Xuema touched her nose. You saw through me. There were more than 400 generals and there were bound to be some who were afraid of death. For the sake of the antidote they would do anything. She had already asked head steward Himu to make arrangements to pay attention to the movements of these generals and seize the opportunity to instigate a rebellion. As for the Celestial Emperor and the other 4 emperors, each of them had been severely injured by her Sky Splitter sword. They also needed the special antidote that she had concocted. For the sake of the antidote, they naturally wouldn't act rashly, which was equivalent to being controlled by her. Her method was actually imitating the Tianshan Tong Lao in demigods and semi-devils. She planted the life and death talisman on the leaders of the sects that she needed to control. Only her antidote could keep them alive. Therefore, although the leaders of the sects were secretly dissatisfied with the Tianshan Tong Lao, they still obediently allowed her to control them. Ning Xuema originally did not want to use this method, but desperate times called for desperate measures. This way she could turn passive into active. Yi Tianli was also very smart. After thinking for a while, he understood Ning Xuema's intention. He sighed, the poison in those people. Is it powerful? Chapter 2140. Ning Xuema smiled. If they do not use their psychokinesis within 2 years, they will not be powerful. If they come to harm the Mo Palace again, don't blame me for being merciless. The poison that she used on those people was similar to the life and death spell. If they dared to attack again, she only needed to use a special spell to make the poison spread quickly in their bodies and explode. Yi Tianli looked at her with a complicated gaze. She was not a kind girl and would not repay evil with good. She was a person who would seek revenge. If you were kind to her, she would risk her life for you. If you were not kind to her, she would chase you for 3,000 miles. She might not be the most beautiful woman in the 6 realms, but she was the most dazzling one. Unfortunately, her heart already belonged to someone else. However, it was not bad to be her friend. Yi Tianli looked at her with a smile. Do you need me to do anything else? Ning Xuema was not polite with him. If possible, help me treat the injured Mo Palace. I remember that your medical skills are good. Yi Tianli nodded. Okay. I have a few friends who are good at medicine. I will ask them to help. He turned and strode away. Ning Xuema breathed a sigh of relief. What was there to regret if she had such friends? She had been busy just now and could only take a breather now. Little Nianma had been in her arms for half a month and did not want to come down. The child had not slept for half a month. His eyes were red like a rabbit's. Now that he was in his mother's arms again, he was very relieved. He fell asleep on Ning Xuema's way back. He did not feel safe even when he was asleep. His 2 little hands were holding her collar and he could not pull it away. Ning Xuema finally returned to the small courtyard of the side palace. On the way back, before little Nianma fell asleep, he timidly told her that Xiao He had also withered on the 3rd day after she fell asleep. He had tried many ways to save it, but he could not. In the end, he gave the withered Xiao He to her as a funeral gift and burned it. That sentence almost sent Ning Xuema to hell. It made her stumble while flying and almost fell off the cloud. But at that time the entire Mo Palace was looking at her, waiting for her to give them strength, and her son. Her son's eyes were also looking at her. This child was probably frightened by her death, this time. Seeing that her expression was slightly not right, he immediately grabbed her clothes and said, Mother? Ning Xuema took a deep breath to calm herself down. She smiled at her son and said, It's okay. I am fine. Come Nianma. Take a nap. Your eyes are as red as a rabbit's. Finally, Gu Shizhou managed to make Nianma fall asleep. Now that she had finally returned to this small courtyard, she was still unwilling to give up. She wanted to search the flower bed again. She put Nianma on the bed in the house and walked out by herself. She squatted in the flower bed, hoping to find some clues, even if it was just a root. An hour later she was finally disappointed. She searched every inch of the flower bed but found nothing. The Xiao He who had once brought her hope was gone. She squatted there feeling cold all over. Even her fingers were a little cold. Gone. How could it disappear? She had clearly changed the spell, hadn't she? She had clearly changed her fate. Why did her only hope disappear when she came back? After she jumped into the black hole, did Shinjuli have an accident? She recalled the last time she saw Shinjuli. His eyes were almost crazy and his actions were crazy. Chapter 2141. She recalled the last time she saw Shinjuli. Shinjuli's eyes were filled with madness, and his actions were crazy. Her heart seemed to be squeezed by something. It was so painful that she couldn't breathe. She slowly sat in the flower bed. Until now she was able to organize her thoughts. When she was trapped in the Fantian Palace in that era, the Heavenly Stone made a deal with her to encourage her. It said that as long as she sealed Zisha, the Heavenly Stone would help her, and her martial strength would be improved instantly. At that time she was worried about Shinjuli. How could she not risk her life to get this promise? So, she tried her best to break the enchantment of the Fantian Palace and finally broke out. And in the array that sealed Zisha, she got the last revelation from the Heavenly Stone. That revelation was a bit deceptive, but it coincided surprisingly with history. The seal of Zisha required either her or Shinjuli to sacrifice themselves in order for it to succeed. If she didn't die, then the one who would die would be Shinjuli. Ning Xuema had no choice. Of course she chose to sacrifice herself. So, to reward her, the heavenly stone allowed her to make a wish. This wish would be fulfilled through a spell after she jumped down as a sacrifice. But the heavenly stone was very strict. It only gave her half a minute to think. It also said that her wish could only be 8 words and she could only make one wish. This request was too sudden. Ning Xuema couldn't think of anything else in her nervousness. Finally, within half a minute, she hurriedly asked the heavenly stone for a wish, that Xinjuli would never immortalize. If he didn't immortalize, it meant that he would never die, even after 50,000 years. Because she knew that she was going to be a sacrifice, Ning Xuema naturally wanted to alienate Xinjuli. She even wanted to draw a line between them and deliberately hurt his heart. She wanted him to be desperate for her. She wanted him to hate her. It was so that when she jumped into the black hole, Xinjuli wouldn't be too sad and do anything extreme. And she also said that when they met in the Tianxi continent 50,000 years later, she could give him a little hope and let him survive. Ning Xuema knew how hard it was to wait. If possible, she would rather he forget about her in these tens of thousands of years. That way he wouldn't have to suffer so much. She had Shui Mo's memories, so she knew that the great god didn't recognize her when they met on the Tianxi continent. He had even made things difficult for her several times. It was obvious that Xinjuli didn't have any memories of Imo Demon Master's past life. However, he had already changed history and replaced little Xuema. Even if the Almighty went to the Tianxi continent in the future, would he still lose his memory? She was very worried about this before jumping into the black hole. In the black hole, she was bitten by the purple demon beasts. When she lost consciousness, she was worried that she would not be able to travel back and would die here forever. Not bad. It was probably because she had saved the mythical continent that she had finally transmigrated back. Furthermore, it was not a soul transmigration, but a direct rebirth in this world. The moment she opened her eyes, she found that she had finally returned to her original world. She appeared in the sky with a myriad of rays of light. She sat there and reorganized her thoughts, recalling the past. She found that the scenes of Shui Mo and Ning Xuema's life and death love with the great god were still fresh in her mind. This meant that there were no major changes in history. Everything was going according to the original plan. Even the scene of Xinjuli immortalizing a few months ago was still vivid in her mind. Damn it, was she tricked by the heavenly Dao stone? Chapter 2142. Damn it, had she been tricked by the heavenly law stone? Did the heavenly law stone not help her fulfill her wish? Had Xinjuli completely immortalized? Was the heavenly law stone so unreliable? Xinjuli, I am here. Where are you? Are you blaming me for hurting you 50,000 years ago and refusing to come back? She sat there, her heart burning as she stared at the nursery in a daze. She wished she could stare a flower out of the nursery. Should she go to the Fantian Palace to look for the heavenly law stone? She wanted to ask it what was going on. Once the idea came to her mind, she did not want to wait any longer. Just when she was about to get up, she suddenly heard her son crying in the room. Mother? Wah, mother. The cry was like a little lamb being bitten by a wolf. It was as miserable as it could be and as nervous as it could be. Ning Xuema almost did not hesitate. Her body flashed and appeared in front of the bed in the hall. She pulled open the bed curtain and took a look. Her heart seemed to have been twisted by someone. Little Nianma had already shakily stood up from the bed, but his eyes were still closed. His 2 little hands were scratching the bed and he kept crying for his mother. Obviously he was sleepwalking. In his dream he was extremely insecure, so he also wanted to look for his mother in the dream. Ning Xuema's heart ached. She raised her hand and hugged him in her arms. Nianma, mother is here. Little Nianma's 2 little hands immediately grabbed her sleeves tightly. His whole body desperately snuggled into her arms. Mother, don't die. Ning Xuema's heart ached. She hugged him tightly. Well, mother will not leave you again. Good boy, sleep for a while more. She simply went to the bed and hugged the child in her arms. She closed her eyes slightly. Little Nianma finally calmed down in her arms. He was really tired and fell asleep in a daze. Ning Xuema wanted to get up again, but when she saw the child holding on to her clothes tightly, she softened her heart. She decided to accompany her son to have a good rest. In a daze, she also fell asleep. When she woke up, Ning Xuema felt something warm rubbing against her nose. She opened her eyes and met her son's large dark eyes with a hint of blue. He sat beside her and placed a small hand on her lips and the tip of her nose. It was obvious that he was subconsciously checking her breathing, probably afraid that she wasn't breathing again. Her big eyes were wide open and she looked a little nervous. When Gu Shijio opened her eyes, little Nianma was relieved. He went back into her arms and hugged her. "Mother?" He sounded like he was asking for a hug. Ning Xuemo rubbed the space between her eyebrows. She reckoned that her son must have been scared out of his wits when she died that time. Normally, when a child of his age was still breastfeeding, he had already experienced so many hardships. The little fellow was not even half a year old yet. His body was the size of a 2 to 3-year-old child. Originally he was chubby in her arms, but now she could feel his tiny skeleton. He was too skinny. He was so thin that it made her hair stand on end. If Shinjuli came back and saw that her son was so thin, he would probably blame her. She felt like there was a pair of pliers twisting her heart. She hugged her son even tighter. She did not get up. She just lay there and talked to her son for a while. Shin Yinma had been silent for so many days. Today he finally opened his mouth and talked to his mother about some of the things that happened during these days. His voice was still a little hoarse. Chapter 2143. His voice was still a little hoarse. Ning Xuema listened to him with a smile and prepared a cup of honey for him to moisten his throat. Then she quietly adjusted his muscles and veins. The child had spent the past few days in fear, anxiety, anger, and despair. His heart was full of anger and his liver was not well. Naturally, he did not have a good appetite and needed to be properly adjusted. Her psychokinesis was very strong now and her medical skills were excellent. In addition, the child was in a good mood now, so the depression in his body was soon relieved. Little Nianma was too tired, so he fell asleep again after a while. When he woke up, the first thing he did was to look for his mother. When he saw that she was still by his side, he was relieved. A normal person would be sick if he did not sleep for a few days, let alone a young child like little Nianma. He had not slept for half a month and he had reached his physical limit. Now that he was relaxed, naturally he would fall into a deep sleep. However, he was still worried about whether his mother would leave him again. Therefore he did not sleep well at first. Coupled with the excitement, he would wake up for a while every half an hour, talk for a while and then go back to sleep. In this way he would sleep when he was tired and talk again when he woke up. His exhausted body finally began to recover slowly, and he finally fell asleep. Ning Xuema saw that her son was sleeping soundly, so she got up. She knew that her son would definitely sleep for a long time. The bowl of honey water that she prepared for him was very effective. Not only could it quickly restore his physical strength, but it also had the effect of adjusting his blood vessels. The little guy would be fine even if he slept for 2 days and 2 nights. She called for Bai Zhe, one of the 8 mythological beasts, and asked it to guard him. After everything was arranged properly, she walked out of the door. Outside, General Manager Heimu had already reported to her that the materials were ready, and they could now restore the original form of the Crimson Nether Eagles. This work was boring and tiring, and it also consumed a lot of psychokinesis. The only person who knew this method and could use this treatment was Ning Xuema. She worked for 2 days without sleep and rest to restore most of the Crimson Nether Eagles to normal demons. During this period, Bai Zhe came to see her with little Nianma. Little Nianma was like a dog skin plaster. He wanted to stay by her side all the time and did not want to leave. He knew that he couldn't disturb his mother at this time, so he obediently watched from the side and even went forward to help. Here he displayed his superhuman talent. He was extremely sensitive to medical knowledge. Whenever Ning Xuema casually told him something, he would silently remember it. The next time they encountered the same situation, he would not wait for Ning Xuema to open her mouth and would have already prepared everything she needed for her. Everything was done in an orderly manner. Ning Xuema had a bad habit of placing things everywhere, and little Nianma was obviously similar to his father in this aspect. He liked to place everything neatly as if he was a soldier. Little Robe was always clean. The first spell he learned was the cleansing incantation. Restoring the Blood Nether Hawk's original body was extremely complicated. Not only did it require mental power, but it also required a certain amount of surgery. Furthermore, it required surgery on both the soul and the body. A Blood Nether Eagle was formed by the fusion of the bodies and souls of 2 demons. They had to be completely separated. This was a very sophisticated work and it took nearly an hour to separate one. There were more than 80 Blood Nether Eagles. Although Ning Xuema had used a spell on them in advance, it was still quite troublesome to do it. Chapter 2144. However, there were more than 80 Crimson Nether Eagles. Although Ning Xuema had cast a spell on them in advance to extend their lifespan by 1 day, it could only be extended by 1 day. If they were not treated in time, they would only have 3 days to live. She worked non-stop for 3 days, but she could only make 72 crimson nether eagles. Therefore time was tight. Once Ning Xuema started, there was no time for rest. She worked on one after another. Initially, she thought that she would not be able to finish the task even if she risked her life. However, after Nianma helped her from a young age, they became more and more familiar with each other. Their speed was getting faster and faster. In the end, their speed increased by 1/3. They could separate one crimson nether eagle every 15 minutes. After working together for a day and a half, they had already completed 60 crimson nether eagles. There were only 20 left. Ning Xuema calculated that she could finish the task by herself, so she asked her son to rest quickly. Unexpectedly, little Nianma refused. He liked to work with his mother and he also liked to do this. According to his own words, he could learn a lot from it. 3 days. It was a race against time. Finally, on the night of the 3rd day, all the crimson nether eagles were successfully separated. These more than 100 crimson nether eagles were saved. When the last crimson nether eagle was successfully separated, the entire Mo palace burst into deafening cheers. Long live the Devil Master! Long live the Devil Master! All hail the Devil Master! We are willing to go through water and tread on fire for the Devil Master. All kinds of cheers were endless. Everyone was excited. This excitement was not only because of the return of more than 100 crimson nether eagles, but also because of the Devil Master's actions. These more than 100 crimson nether eagles were not very high-level crimson nether eagles in the Mo palace. Logically speaking, such crimson nether eagles were sacrificed. The devil kings of the past would not sacrifice their psychokinesis for such crimson nether eagles, let alone save them like Ning Xuema did. It was unprecedented for a devil master to be so kind to her subordinates. Only such a devil master was worthy of their sacrifice. They were willing to sacrifice everything for her. What's more, this devil lord's medical skills were so high that he could actually cure an almost incurable disease. Having such a devil lord was simply a blessing that the devil realm had never had before. What was even rarer was that the young lord was actually able to follow his mother's instructions. One had to know that even head steward He Mu, a godly doctor from the devil realm, couldn't do anything at that time. The demon realm finally had a successor. The young master was also so powerful. When the lower-level devil clansmen had sacrificed themselves to protect their young master's escape, they were still somewhat unwilling. But now, all those unwillingness had vanished like smoke in thin air. With the devil lord and the young master, why would the devil realm not prosper in the future? The devils, who had been depressed over the deaths of their friends and family, were now completely relaxed. Demons had always been open-minded when it came to problems, so they quickly pulled themselves together and began to rebuild Mo Palace with great confidence. And from now on, Ning Xuema's name as the Devil Master would be even more resounding. Outside, some loose devils who were originally not under his control also came one after another to seek refuge. Mo Palace became even more prosperous. Of course, this was a story for later. Ning Xuema had also learned a lesson from the encirclement of the 4 realms this time. Her Mo Palace was indeed magnificent, but its defenses weren't very strong. This time, if the 8 great divine beasts hadn't used the divine barrier to hold on for 16 days, everyone in Mo Palace would probably have been exterminated by the 4 realms. Chapter 2145. Therefore, during the reconstruction of Mo Palace this time, Ning Xuema added some mechanism techniques and taught them to head steward He Mu. She asked him to bring people to repair the palace according to the layout. Once the modifications were successful, it would automatically form a kind of formation that only the people in Mo Palace could enter and leave freely. This way, if Mo Palace was attacked by other realms when she was not at home, this formation would be able to resist for a few days. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Everything in Mo Palace was on track, and the reconstruction was mostly successful. These days, Ning Xuema's news was not blocked. From time to time, spies from other realms would report all kinds of news. For example, the Celestial Emperor's prestige was greatly damaged after this battle. After he returned to the celestial world with serious injuries, not many deities from other realms went to visit him. Less than 1/3 of the original number went to visit him. The other deities either said that they were sick and could not come out. In short, the Celestial Emperor's situation was a bit miserable. His injuries were the most serious. It was said that he had invited many divine doctors, but none of them could do anything. They could only watch him suffer as if he was being tortured every day. People who were in pain for a long time naturally had a bad temper. Therefore, the Celestial Emperor often flew into a rage at the people around him. He even pulled out his sword and killed an inner servant just because the inner servant walked a little too loudly. Because of this, the Celestial Emperor naturally became even more unpopular. It was said that not only did some ministers run away, but even the maids and inner servants in the palace were gradually running away. Even the Celestial Emperor's 2 heavenly concubines did not dare to appear in front of him because of his bad temper. The Celestial Emperor could be said to be deserted by everyone. It was only a matter of time before he was overthrown. This was the reason why Ning Xuema did not kill him. Didn't he use all kinds of methods to fight for territory? Wasn't he not even willing to let the children go? She wanted him to watch helplessly as his regime was overthrown. But he was powerless. This was her greatest revenge against the Celestial Emperor. As for the Celestial Emperor's injuries, without her antidote, he would never recover. He would toss and turn in pain all day and night. Therefore, Ning Xuema could almost predict what would happen to the Celestial Emperor in the end. As for the emperors of the other realms, they also suffered a lot of injuries. They would also be in pain all day and night without relief. This was a bloody lesson she wanted to teach them. In the future, he would decide whether to give them the antidote based on their performance. Of course, in order to let them remember this lesson, she waited for them to be in pain for a full 4 days before ordering someone to send them half of the antidote. This antidote could stop the pain, but it would not cure them completely. They had to receive the antidote once every month, or else the pain would relapse, and it would only get worse after the relapse. As for the injured generals, Ning Xuema would deliver the antidote to them 4 days later. Of course, the antidote had to be taken once a month. Once it was cut off, the relapse would be even more severe. It could be said that the leaders of the invasion of the 4 realms were all under control, and they didn't dare to cause any more trouble. Ning Xuema's move could be said to be a thunderous method, but it was also the best method at the moment. What worried her the most was Luo Jiuchen. That guy never showed up and no one even knew where he went. It was as if he had disappeared forever. However, Ning Xuema knew that he would not disappear. She just didn't know what he was planning behind her back. Since she couldn't find him for a while, she might as well not look for him. After all, she had not made the heavens water poison yet. Now, even if that bastard came out and asked her to chop him, she couldn't do anything to him. Chapter 2146. She only asked General Manager Heimu to strengthen the security so that even if Luo Jiuchen came, he would not be able to take advantage of the situation. After she successfully rescued the Crimson Nether Eagles, she only rested for half a day to recover her energy. Then she immediately went to Fantian Palace. Of course, before she left, she asked her son to wait in Fantian Palace obediently. At the same time, she also asked the 8 mythological beasts to stay close to him. After this big change, little Nianma had matured a lot. Although he was reluctant to leave his mother, he did not pester her. He went to practice. The bamboo forest was thin and the clouds were leisurely. Ning Xuema stood outside Fantian Palace and looked at the gate. She was lost in thought. 50,000 years had passed, but Fantian Palace was still the same. Even the green jade nails on the gate were not missing. In fact, in order to break out of Fantian Palace 50,000 years ago, she forcibly broke the wizardry barrier at the gate of Fantian Palace. As a result, there was a round hole on the gate. Now the round hole was still there, like an eye looking at Ning Xuema. A round hole. How did this hole exist? She remembered that when she was forced to leave Fantian Palace with Nianma, there was no such hole on the gate. How did it suddenly appear now? She looked at the shape and size of the hole. It was exactly the same as when she broke it. She even saw her small handprint on it. She put her hand on it. It was neither big nor small. It was hers. Her heart skipped a beat. She remembered that when she traveled to the past, the speed of time seemed to be synchronized. The number of days she spent in the past was the same as the number of days here. Did she also leave a trace when she broke the barrier of Fantian Palace? Then she and Shinjoli had set up so many traps in Fantian Palace. Would it also happen automatically? If that was the case, the waterside pavilion where Luo Jiuchen lived was set up by her and Shinjoli. Would it inadvertently trap Luo Jiuchen, who was resting inside? Later on, Shinjoli took her to set up a circle of arrays around the waterside pavilion. Each array was so powerful that even ghosts and gods would cry. Luo Jiuchen had not appeared. Did that mean that he was not missing? Was he trapped in there and could not get out? She had heard from Yi Tianli that the Sky Emperor had been trying to contact Luo Jiuchen for the past half a month, but he could not reach him. The first time the voice transmission talisman was connected, but because the voice was too noisy, she could not hear what the other party was saying. After that, the voice transmission talisman did not go through again. She remembered that Shinjoli had once said that the array he had set up could not only trap people, but it could also make the voice-transmitting talisman lose its effect. From Ning Xuema's point of view, it was Shinjoli's formation that blocked the signal. If Luo Jiuchen was really trapped inside, he wouldn't be able to communicate with the outside world. Now that he thought about it, it was a perfect match. She listened carefully. The Fantian Palace was as quiet as a huge tomb. There was no sound at all. Strange, if Luo Jiuchen was breaking the array inside, there should be no sound at all, right? Could it be that Luo Jiuchen had already broken out of the array? Or was he trapped to death in the array? She thought about it, then cast a spell to open the gate of Fantian Palace. She walked in, she entered very carefully. Could be said that there was no sound at all. The scenery in front of her was still the same. It was no different from when she left 50,000 years ago. But at this time she did not have time to be sad. She had to verify the speculation in her heart. If Luo Jiuchen was trapped here, he was bound to be very weak. It was a good opportunity to beat him when he was down. She might even be able to lock this bastard into the Bell of Heaven Dao again. Chapter 2147. Shinjoli had taught her how to open and seal the Tiandao bell. She didn't have the sky water poison. Even if she couldn't kill him, it would be good if she could lock him up for tens of thousands of years. If she didn't get rid of this person, he would always be a time bomb in her life. Who knew when he would blow up her beautiful life? She flew all the way and arrived at the periphery of the waterside pavilion in the blink of an eye. Then she narrowed her eyes and unsheathed the sky regicide. The periphery of the waterside pavilion seemed to have been blown by a hurricane. There were broken walls and broken branches everywhere. In other words, the outermost array had been broken. Ning Xuema quickly circled around the periphery. From time to time, she grabbed the fallen leaves on the ground to look and smell them. She was indeed a special agent. Even the most powerful criminal police couldn't compare with her observation and tracking ability. After circling around in such a small circle, she came to two conclusions based on the current situation. The array here had indeed trapped Luo Jiuchen. And he had already escaped 3 days ago. Had he escaped from Fantian Palace? Or was he hiding in a corner of Fantian Palace, waiting to give her a fatal blow? Ning Xuema never dared to underestimate this person. This person was as cunning as a fox and as ruthless as a wolf. As long as it was related to him, she had to be careful. She had to be careful. Half an hour later, Ning Xuema had changed all the mechanisms. Her heart sank. All the mechanisms set up by her and Shinjoli had been broken. According to the traces at the scene, she could tell when he had broken each mechanism. The earliest mechanism was broken 10 days ago, and the latest one was broken 3 days ago. In other words, when Luo Jiuchen broke out of the array, she had just pacified the invasion of the Four Realms and controlled them. If Luo Jiuchen had gone out at that time, he couldn't have urged the Four Realms to make trouble. He had been trapped in this array for half a month. Breaking the array must have consumed a lot of his strength and he might have been seriously injured. With that person scheming, he would not expose himself in front of the people of the Four Realms. So where would he go? Luo Jiuchen was proficient in the art of transformation. If he wanted to hide, ordinary spies wouldn't be able to find him at all. Logically speaking, this Fantian Palace was the best place for him to rest and recuperate. Perhaps after he left, he would return to Fantian Palace and cultivate in a place with abundant spirit qi to recover. Ning Xuema was also a bold person. She didn't want to miss this opportunity, so she immediately began to search inside and outside Fantian Palace. Luo Jiuchen hadn't inherited the position of the Master of Heaven and Earth yet, so there were many places in the Fantian Palace that he couldn't go to. Therefore, Ning Xuema found those places where he could go. Strangely enough, she had almost dug 3 feet into the ground to search, not even letting go of an ant's nest, but she still couldn't find any trace of Luo Jiuchen. It seemed like that person had really escaped. He had suffered such a big loss in Fantian Palace, so he might have a psychological shadow of this place. That was why he ran away as soon as he was free. Then where was he most likely to go in the 6 realms? This was a difficult question to answer. Ning Xuema pondered for a moment and decided to look for the Heavenly Dao Stone first. On the lone peak, the wind was biting cold. The Heavenly Dao Stone was still there, but it was still dim and dull, no different from an ordinary stone. Ning Xuema thought of its awesome appearance 50,000 years ago and looked at it now. She almost suspected that the one in front of her was an imposter. Chapter 2148. Heavenly Tao, how have you been? Ning Xuema did not give up and began to try to talk to it. She said a lot of things to it. She praised it, provoked it, and even scolded it. In the end she even kicked it, but it did not react at all. It stood there quietly, indicating that it was just an ordinary stone. Ning Xuema used all her methods, but it did not even flash, as if it had run out of electricity. What should she do if it played dead at this time? Her heart was full of hope that he could come back within half a year, but now, could it be that she had made so many sacrifices in the past and still could not change her fate? She was bitten by the purple fiend beast for nothing? This bastard stone. He actually used this to trick her. Ning Xuema was angry and desperate. She kicked the stone several times. This bastard Heavenly Tao, she could not see any hope of Shinjuli coming back. After venting her anger, she sat there powerlessly. If it weren't for the fact that she was still worried about her son, she would have wanted to stay here forever. Suddenly, she seemed to think of something and suddenly jumped up. Luo Jiuchen had already escaped. If he ran to Mo Palace and did something to her son, thinking of this possibility, she immediately turned and left. She disappeared like a gust of wind. The peak returned to its usual calm as if no one had ever come. Suddenly, the dull white stone glowed slightly under the sunlight. The light was very faint, so faint that it could be ignored if one did not look carefully. At this time, if someone had a pair of X-ray eyes, they would be able to see that the inside of the stone was not as dim as the outside. The inside was actually sparkling and transparent like crystal. Moreover, the space was not small. It was like a shining crystal hall. The crystal pillars in the hall had countless runes flashing on them. And in the center of the hall there was a lotus. A gigantic crystal lotus. The layers of petals stretched out like a lotus seat, and in the center of the lotus sat a boy wearing a tutu. The boy seemed to be meditating. He looked less than a year old and was extremely beautiful. She had a fair face, fair arms and legs, and even her hair was snow white. Her long eyelashes covered her eyes and face, making her look like a porcelain doll. The lotus petals around the boy also seemed to have runes circulating around them. From time to time, they would flash with a faint light, as if they were providing nourishment for him to recover. On the crystal pillar next to the boy, lines of words slowly flashed as if explaining something. I didn't break my promise. I didn't play dead. I will fight for this promise with all my strength. He paused for a moment, then continued, Do you think you're growing cabbages by reviving those who had already immortalized within half a year? It can be harvested in one season? A moment later, she kicked me. How disrespectful. How disrespectful. I want to strike her with lightning. Another kick. Heavens, this is the second time I've been treated like this since I was established. His first time was also with her. Damn it. In the end, the stone comforted itself. Only villains and women are hard to deal with. The Heavenly Tao will not lower itself to her level. The truth would be revealed one day. By the way, Supreme Divinity, when did you wake up? How depressing. How depressing. How depressing. I don't want to break my promise. But I can't tell her. How depressing. The stone seemed to like talking to itself. It was refreshing inside when the sound of a breeze came from outside. Chapter 2149. Someone was coming. A man floated down from the lonely peak. The man was wearing a striking purple robe. His originally elegant eyes were cold, his hair was a little messy, and his thin lips were a little pale. He looked a little like a wolf. This man was none other than the sub-god Luo Jiuchen. He stood on the lonely peak and looked at the big white stone coldly. Why? Why can't I wake you up? I've already agreed to the 3 conditions of that little brat. I should be able to wake you up and become the guardian of the Heavenly Tao. Why don't you recognize me? The Heavenly Tao stone stood there proudly. It was a piece of snow-white stone, and it disdained to shine on him. However, it was saying, an evildoer wants to become the guardian of the Heavenly Tao? Do you think I'm stupid? What do you want me to do? How can I become the master of this world? Luo Jiuchen's voice was filled with grief and indignation. Stop dreaming. It will never happen. Didn't they say that after the main god ascends, the sub-god can naturally become the main god? Why can't I do it after working so hard for so long? A defective product will always be a defective product. I hate counterfeits. The Heavenly Tao stone had learned a lot of modern words from Ning Xuema, so it couldn't help but use them at this moment. Of course, these words were all in its mind. Outside, it was still a cold and hard stone, proudly refusing to give Luo Jiuchen an explanation. Why do I feel that my memory is wrong these days? I vaguely remember that after those people sealed Zisha 50,000 years ago, Xinjuli took revenge on me and plotted against me. That's why I was sealed in the heavenly Dao Bell. But now, in my memory, that girl and Xinjuli worked together to seal me in the heavenly Dao Bell. What's going on? Because that girl changed part of history, your memory is naturally wrong. But I won't explain it to you. Also, there was no array in the Fantian Palace before. Why did it add so many arrays overnight? Is Xinjuli back? The heavenly Dao stone was silent. It was a little nervous. The runes inside flickered, and the lotus petals that were originally in a blooming state gradually closed, wrapping the little boy tightly inside layer by layer. However, he still felt that it wasn't safe enough, so he quietly moved a few more crystal pillars over, hiding the crystal lotus firmly in the depths of the pillars. No. Xinjuli should have already immortalized. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his original body to appear in this world. One of the incantations that bastard set up was, if he doesn't immortalize, I can't leave the bell of heaven. Luo Jiuchen was still muttering to himself. The heavenly law stone gloated. In fact, you have been fooled. Even if Xin Yinma did not let you go, you would still come out of the heavenly law bell. It would just be a year later. Since he didn't come back to life, who set up the mechanism array in Fantian Palace? Heavenly Dao stone, is it you? Luo Jiuchen also knew how to reason and gradually put a hat on the heavenly Dao stone's head. The heavenly Dao stone. Luo Jiuchen, you won't be able to understand the reason behind this even if you crack your head. Heavenly Dao stone, will you never acknowledge me? Luo Jiuchen was getting angrier as he spoke. The heavenly Dao stone, yes. Heavenly Dao stone, you will never know how hard I worked to get this position. How can you treat me like this? Luo Jiuchen's voice was getting colder and colder. Since you are so unfair, why should I fight for this position? Chapter 2150. A sword slowly appeared in his palm. A sword with purple light flashing on it. As soon as it appeared, a ghostly howl could be heard from within. Heavenly Dao stone. Sky Demon sword. Luo Jiuchen had actually refined a Sky Demon sword. The refining process of the Sky Demon sword was similar to Ning Xuema's Sky Splitter sword, but it was crueler. It was also more powerful. The Sky Splitter sword was made from the bones of countless demons, and the main body of the Sky Demon sword was made from the souls and bones of 100 immortal generals. The resentment attached to it was even more shocking. Once cut by it, the resentment on it would immediately surge in and turn a person into a demon. And a brainless demon that only knew how to kill. This person was crazy. Where did he find so many immortal generals? He was clearly on the verge of going mad. Why did he take out this sword now? The heavenly Dao stone was on guard. Luo Jiuchen narrowed his eyes and suddenly smiled. That girl is very capable. She actually turned the situation around and resolved the crisis in just a few days. This is really beyond my expectations. It will be a bit difficult for me to plot against her again. However, the more she is like this, the more I seem to like her and the more I want to get her. I want her to groan and beg for mercy under me, I want her to bloom for me. As a former sub-god, the heavenly Dao stone was very disdainful of him for saying such dirty words. The crystal lotus in its body suddenly swayed slightly. The heavenly Dao stone was caught off guard, and the entire stone swayed along with it. Of course, it was big and didn't sway much. If one didn't observe it carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it. However, it didn't expect Luo Jiuchen to notice it. His eyes lit up, and his gaze became as sharp as needles. Heavenly Dao stone, so you have a reaction. Heavenly Dao stone. Could it lie a little and say that it was blown by the wind? Luo Jiuchen's gaze was like a tangible drill as he sized up the heavenly Dao stone from top to bottom. His gaze became colder and colder, and the heavenly Dao stone became more and more alarmed. Heavenly Dao stone, I will count to 10, and you will shine for me. Otherwise I will cut you in half right here. Luo Jiuchen slowly raised his sword. The heavenly law stone froze. In the past it would not be threatened like this. Once someone disrespected it, it would immediately summon tribulation lightning to strike that person. But now it was using all its power to revive the Divine Lord in its body, and it could not stop. Once it stopped, all its previous efforts would be wasted, and it would really break its promise. He would be scolded to death by that girl. Because of this, it was unable to summon the lightning tribulation. It could only allow this demigod to be arrogant in front of it. It was a heavenly law stone, so it was not afraid of any weapons. However, the heavenly demon sword was too powerful, and its original body might not be able to withstand it. Even if it wasn't split into two, there was still a possibility that there would be a crack on the stone body. However, as a dignified heavenly Tao stone, it would definitely not lower its head to evil forces. It seemed that there was only one of the 36 stratagems left: escape. Thus, Luo Jiuqin, who was counting with a cold voice, saw a scene that he would never forget. That huge white stone seemed to have grown legs as it suddenly rolled over. A gust of wind blew past and it rolled down the cliff. Luo Jiuqin never knew that the stone could move. By the time he reacted, the stone was already falling like a meteor. Chapter 2151. Furthermore, the place where it fell was not the right side of the mountain but the back. Below the back of the mountain was not an ordinary land, but a sea of stars. When Luo Jiuqin hurriedly chased after it, the stone had already fallen into the sea of stars and became one of the billions of stars. Luo Jiuqin floated in the air and floated back and forth a few times, but he still could not find its whereabouts. There was no other way. Under his feet were all star stones similar to the heavenly Tao stone. He could not tell which one was the real one. He was simply gnashing his teeth. Why did no one ever tell him that this stone could run on its own? Heavenly Tao. If you don't let me become a god, then I will completely become a demon. I must become the ruler of this divine demon continent. Luo Jiuqin shouted. His voice spread through the sea of stars like a mountain's echo. Heavenly Tao stone, I will definitely find you. I will cut you into 17 or 18 pieces. Luo Jiuqin said fiercely. The sea of stars flickered and countless star stones came and went in the air, as if they were changing their own trajectories. Each stone was like a star, constantly moving, and each had their own trajectories. It was a dazzling sight. In a very remote corner, an inconspicuous star silently fell down, never to be seen again. There were too many star stones under his feet, so Luo Jiuqin naturally did not notice that one. He stood in the air and laughed. So the heavenly Tao stone also has such a cowardly side. Then what is the use of me protecting you? I have been compromising for tens of thousands of years, but it was just a joke. However, it is not too late to understand this point now. Sooner or later, I will make all the living beings in the 6 realms tremble at my feet. Heavenly Tao stone, you are no exception. His wanton laughter spread far and wide. Originally, he always had the idea of becoming a supreme god in the future, so he was always timid when doing things. When he did bad things, he did not dare to do it personally and had to take many detours. Now he suddenly thought it through. Once he went all out, there might not be many people in this world who could be his opponent. He was filled with grief and indignation as he laughed loudly. He did not know that his surroundings had quietly changed. Originally, his body was shrouded in a layer of faint purple gold light. Now that golden light was gradually disappearing and was replaced by a pure purple that flowed like a stream. That purple was extremely dense, faintly tinged with black. The star stones around him seemed to have been stimulated by the murderous aura around him. The speed of their movement suddenly changed, and a gust of wind blew out from the starry sky. The wind grew stronger and stronger, and it gradually formed a hurricane that blew towards the 6 worlds. Little Nianma looked up at the sky. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, and lightning flashed from time to time, as if doomsday was coming. Ka! A beam of red light seemed to tear the sky apart as it stretched across the entire world. As the red light flashed past, it was accompanied by the sound of thunder. It was right above Mo Palace and it shook the ground beneath their feet. Hua! After the thunder and lightning, heavy rain poured down. It was as if the Milky Way had exploded, and the world was covered in a layer of red. The rain wasn't ordinary rain. Instead, it was blood-red water. The water even carried a faint smell of blood that permeated the entire world. The rain fell on the wizardry barrier above Mo Palace, and the sound of the rain was deafening. The rainwater gathered into a stream on the barrier and flowed freely to the surroundings. Little Nianma clenched his fists. The weather had been like this for half a month. There was no sunlight all day long and the clouds were always rolling. At a certain time there would be a bloody rain. Chapter 2152. The blood rain was like a strong acid, corrosive and corrosive. Wherever it went, holes would be corroded. Fortunately, There was a protective barrier set up by Ning Xuema above Mo Palace. Otherwise, the newly built Mo Palace would have been corroded into a hornet's nest. This kind of weather was obviously abnormal, but it wasn't just the weather that was abnormal, the people of the Six Realms were also abnormal. First of all, the immortal world was abnormal. The immortal generals who had fought alongside the Celestial Emperor and were forced to cut off one of their arms had all disappeared within a day. The relatives of those immortal generals thought that it was the demon world's doing, that it was another punishment from the Devil Master. So they tearfully came to Mo Palace to ask for their captives and knelt in front of Mo Palace, begging the Devil Master to let them go. At that time, Ning Xuema had just returned from Fantian Palace. What she saw was a dense crowd of people begging for her permission. After she appeared, she sent those people away with a few words. Then she ordered head steward Himu to quickly send people to investigate. The results of the investigation were shocking. According to the families of the missing generals, they had received a transmission from General Manager Himu when they were recuperating at home. Then they hurriedly went out alone and never returned. The family waited anxiously for a long time, but when no one came back they were worried and went out to look for them, but they found nothing. A General Manager Himu swore that he had never sent a transmission to them. There must be a misunderstanding. Ning Xuema naturally believed General Manager Himu. Her first suspect was Luo Jiuqin. But what was Luo Jiuqin's purpose? However, no one could guess what was going on. The demon world had always been very good at finding people. Ning Xuema immediately sent experts to investigate the whereabouts of the missing generals. 3 days later they finally found them. However, they didn't find living people but corpses. Corpses that had died extremely tragic and strange deaths. The lumbar vertebrae of all the corpses had been removed, and not even a trace of their souls was left. Ning Xuema's heart sank. This was obviously caused by cultivating some kind of evil art or refining some kind of evil treasure. She immediately sent people to look for Luo Jiuqin's whereabouts in the Six Realms, but that person seemed to have disappeared. Ning Xuema used countless methods but still couldn't find him. However, people began to disappear frequently in the Six Realms, never to be found again. The weather in the Six Realms became more and more abnormal day by day. Then there was lightning and blood rain. The enemy was in the dark while he was in the light. How could it be easy to find someone who was good at transformation in the Six Realms? In the past half a month, everyone in the Six Realms was in danger, and all kinds of rumors were flying around. These days, Ning Xuema had been busy with the investigation and did not have much time to accompany her son. Little Nianma also knew that he should not be a burden to his mother during this critical period, so he had been obediently staying in Mo Palace. There was a barrier around Mo Palace, and the security at the entrance was extremely tight. People from the outside would not be able to get in. As long as little Nianma stayed in Mo Palace, he would be safe. Apart from practicing and studying, he would also take a stroll in the garden. Right now he was walking in the garden of Mo Palace. Because they had not seen the sun for a long time, the flowers in the garden looked withered and listless. This damned Luo Jiuqin. Look at what he had done to the Six Realms. If it were not for this bastard, perhaps he and his mother would have a better life. Little Nianma sat down against a stone and took out a book. When he was about to revise the parts that he did not understand, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw General Manager Heimu standing not far behind him. Chapter 2153. Young Master, are you unhappy? Head Butler Heimu asked with a smile as he approached him. Little Nianma was a little listless. Of course I am unhappy because I am stuck in the palace every day. It is all Luo Jiuqin's fault. He was a little surprised. Heimu, aren't you talking to my mother in the front hall? Why are you here all of a sudden? Have you finished your discussion? Head Butler Heimu smiled casually. Yes, it is not much. It was just a few words. Young Master, do you want to go out? Little Nianma lay on the stone behind him and crossed his legs. He was bored with a piece of grass in his mouth. Of course, who wants to be stuck in the same place every day? For the past few days, every time his mother went out, she would leave him in Mo Palace, and the 8 divine beasts would never leave her side. When his mother was in the Mo Palace, she had to deal with a lot of things. Most of the time, she still liked to bring her son with her. However, Shin Yanma was only a child who was not even 1 year old. There were many things that he did not understand and it was very boring. Naturally, he would get impatient and occasionally run out to play in the garden. He had walked around the garden many times, and he remembered the position of every stone in the garden. In fact, there was nothing to play with. If it weren't for that bastard Luo Jiuchen hiding in the dark like a mouse, his mother would have taken him out to play long ago. Head butler Heimu showed sympathy. Young master, why don't I take you out to play? Little Nianma's eyes lit up, but he immediately shook his head. No, my mother does not allow me to go out. I can secretly take you out to play for half a day. The great devil will not find out. Head butler Heimu tried to persuade him. Little Nianma was stunned. He looked up and stared at him. Suddenly he jumped up. No, you are not Heimu. Head butler Heimu frowned slightly. Young master, I am Heimu. What happened to you? He approached him as he spoke. Little Nianma quickly retreated. He waved his hand and a shiny short sword was unsheathed. With a flick of his finger, a blue light flew straight to the sky. His set of movements was extremely smooth. The blue light was used as an alarm. As long as it exploded in the sky, his mother would sense it and quickly appear by his side. Unexpectedly, just as his blue light flew into the air, Chief Steward Heimu waved his sleeve. Like a rolling cloud, it actually wrapped around the blue light that hadn't yet exploded. The blue light exploded within his sleeve, but not a single flame came out. Little thing, you're really alert. Manager Heimu smiled as he watched him approach step by step. However, do you think you can escape from the palm of my hand? This time you have to come with me even if you don't want to. Suddenly, his hand shot out like a snake and tried to grab Shen Yanma. Shen Yanma suddenly took a step forward and avoided the attack at the critical moment. He turned around and ran, shouting as he ran, "Mother! Mother!" Luo Jiuchen had entered Mo Palace. Luo Jiuchen has entered Mo Palace. Her voice was sharp and pierced through the clouds. That person was Luo Jiuchen. He also did not expect that he would miss his target. Only then did he remember that Ning Xuema seemed to know a very special footwork to escape. It seemed that she had taught this footwork to her son. Little thing, you actually recognized me. You are not stupid, but it is useless for you to shout. I have already set up a soundproof wizardry barrier here. No one can hear you. Luo Jiuchen chased after him. Chapter 2154. There was a huge gap between their abilities. Although little Nianma was able to run for more than 10 meters with his special footwork, Luo Jiuchen still managed to catch up with him. Luo Jiuchen laughed. Little thing, you better follow me obediently. He reached out and grabbed one of little Nianma's arms. Watch, watch. Something on little Nianma's waist suddenly made a sharp noise. At the same time, his body suddenly burst into a circle of red light. Luo Jiuchen felt as if he had been electrocuted. His wrist went numb and he subconsciously let go. Little Nianma took the opportunity to roll out. He rolled too quickly and hit a rock with a bang. Almost at the same time, a white light appeared out of nowhere and the ground under him suddenly split open to form a large hole. He screamed and fell directly into the large hole. Luo Jiuchen was about to pick him up again, but when he saw the white light, he froze. Shen Yanma had already rolled into the big hole and disappeared. He looked into the hole, but it was dark and he could not see anything. He was afraid that the big hole was a trap arranged by Ning Xuema. He hesitated in front of the big hole, but the big hole closed in an instant. He was stunned and was wondering if he should use the underground drilling spell to go in and take a look. Suddenly there was a soft sound not far away. He froze. The wizardry barrier that he set to block all sound was broken. Then he heard Ning Xuema's voice coming from afar. Nianma. Luo Jiuchen did not want to face Ning Xuema at this time. He flashed and flew straight to the sky. Luo Jiuchen. Ning Xuema had not arrived, but she had already swung her sword. Luo Jiuchen's body flashed out of thin air and avoided Ning Xuema's fatal attack. He did not want to fight. He still rose into the sky and raised his hand to tear the wizardry barrier. He had already flashed out like lightning and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only his laughter could be heard in the air. Little Xuema, don't worry. We will have the chance to meet sooner or later. When he said the last word, his voice was very far away. It was still raining blood outside, and the raindrops were blowing in through the torn enchantment. Ning Xuema's face was pale. She raised her hand and sealed the barrier again. Although she had only met Luo Jiuchen briefly, she could tell that little Nianma was not in his hands. At this time, her priority was naturally to find her son. Everything else could wait. Because the enchantment was torn open, an ear-piercing alarm sounded from Mo Palace. Countless figures rushed in this direction. The ones at the very front were none other than Manager Heimu and the 8 divine beasts. Cheongqi's loud voice could be heard from afar. What's going on? Someone is invading? Ning Xuema took a deep breath and said solemnly, Luo Jiuchen was here. He tore open the barrier and escaped again. His target this time was little Nianma. However, he failed to take Nianma away. She was concise and went straight to the point. While she was talking, she quickly looked for the whereabouts of her son nearby. She had specially installed a special alarm on her son. As long as someone caught her son involuntarily, the alarm would automatically go off. Not only would it pop up a spell to attack the kidnapper, but it would also let Ning Xuema know immediately and quickly locate him. Manager Heimu and the 8 divine beasts were surprised and also a little puzzled. How did that bastard Luo Jiuchen get in? We have set up a divine mirror at the entrance of the palace. As long as someone with a divine aura sneaks in, he will be revealed. Chapter 2155. Ning Xuema said in a low voice, Luo Jiuchen has been possessed by the devil. There is no longer any celestial aura in him. Although it was only a short encounter, Ning Xuema could still see the dark aura around Luo Jiuchen. The demigod possessed by the devil? General Manager Heimu and the others looked at each other in shock. If the demigod was not possessed by the devil, he would have a lot of scruples in his actions and would not do anything out of the ordinary. However, once he was completely possessed by the devil, he would have no scruples in his actions and would be able to do whatever he wanted. Luo Jiuchen's kung fu was close to the peak. If he used it to practice some evil spells, his future cultivation would be unimaginable. Ning Xuema naturally thought of this as well. She closed her eyes slightly. Luo Jiuchen would be the strongest opponent in her life. Sooner or later they would have a life and death battle. She had to make the heavenly water poison as soon as possible, but she still lacked 2 special herbs. No. Ning Xuema, the 8 mythological beasts, and General Manager Heimu turned the entire garden upside down, but they could not find little Nianma. Ning Xuema's face was pale, and her hands and feet were cold. Where did the child go? Luo Jiuchen did not take him away, so how could he disappear? Did Luo Jiuchen kill him? The child was her only hope to survive. If something happened to him again, Ning Xuema almost did not dare to think about it anymore. There were a lot of things to deal with these days. She was busy from morning to night every day. She woke up earlier than the chicken and slept later than the dog. She had to deal with all kinds of affairs. Even so, she often had insomnia. In the dead of the night, Shinjioli's shadow would always appear in her heart, making her feel as if she was drowning. Lovesickness was like a knife. If she did not think about it, it would be unforgettable, but she had no place to talk about it. In fact, she also wanted to get drunk. She also wanted to wantonly get drunk and sleep like many frustrated girls. She also wanted to escape from this bitter and fucked up reality. However, she could not. She still had her son to protect and the devil world to protect. Luo Jiuchen was still eyeing her in the dark, trying to take her down. The bloody reality did not allow her to relax in the slightest. In order to pacify and stabilize the hearts of the people, she could not even reveal the slightest bit of dispirited emotions. She had been desperately persevering and working hard. She didn't want her son to be disappointed, hurt, or cry again. But now, his son had disappeared. The only thing she could sense was that her son was still alive. He couldn't sense anything else. She had installed a tracking device on her son, but it seemed to have malfunctioned. She couldn't sense it at all. Did Luo Jiuchen have other helpers? He came to distract her, but the helper took her son away. Her heart was on fire. Fortunately, Mo Palace would automatically shut down once the alarm rang. If Luo Jiuchen had help, then the other party shouldn't be able to escape the palace. Search the entire palace. Little Nianma did not expect to fall into a black hole. The hole was extraordinarily deep, and it took him a few minutes to reach the bottom. Fortunately, his skin looked soft and tender now, but he had already trained his muscles and bones to not be afraid of bumps, so he was not injured in the process of rolling down. He got up dizzily and patted the robe on his body. He was still a little shaken. He was almost caught by that bastard. Fortunately, there was a hole here. Chapter 2156. He looked up and saw that it was pitch black. He could not see the top, and Luo Jiuchen did not chase after him. Was he safe for the time being? He heaved a sigh of relief. The cave was pitch black as if it had not seen sunlight for thousands of years. With his current night vision, he could not see anything clearly. He could only touch it with his hands. He touched the surrounding. The walls were hard, cold, and a little smooth. It seemed that something had crashed down and created such a huge pit. Shinyenma scratched his head. He was very familiar with the garden above. He even remembered how many ant nests there were. How could he not know that there was such a strange cave here? He did not know that the cave above had been closed. He was afraid that Luo Jiuchen would chase after him, so he did not dare to stay in the cave for long. The ground under his feet was getting harder and harder. Slowly he began to see a light blue light. A moment later he found himself in an icy blue crystal cave. The walls on both sides and the top of his head were crystal clear. The crystal tunnel was still long and narrow. He did not know where it led to. Children were born to love adventure, and little Nianma was no exception. He continued to move forward along the tunnel. He was surprised to find that the crystal tunnel was colorful. First it was blue, then yellow, and then red. There were red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple colors. The deeper he went, the purer the crystals that formed the cave walls. Finally, there was a bright light in front of his eyes. There was a bright crystal hall in front of him. Little Nianma had never seen such a beautiful and magnificent crystal hall. The hall was formed naturally. The shape was not regular, but it was full of a natural wild charm. The hall was octagonal. There were crystals of different colors in the hall. The purity was unprecedentedly high. The blue ones were like water, the red ones were like fire, and the black ones were like ink. Every one of them was crystal clear. It was so beautiful that people could hardly take their eyes off it. After all, little Nianma was well educated. He could vaguely see that this seemed to be a natural crystal array. It was well known that crystals gathered energy, and the crystal cave had a very strong energy gathering effect. The center of the crystal array should be the energy gathering point. It could absorb the energy from the crystals from all directions. Generally speaking, the crystals in the center of the array should be the purest and most valuable. They should also have the most energy. However, at this moment, what stood in the center of the crystal formation was not a crystal, but a white stone. Moreover, it was a stone with missing corners and edges. Its shape was too ordinary. It looked like a mountain rock that could be seen everywhere in the mountains. Other than its snow-white color, there was nothing special about it. Compared to the countless crystals around it, it was like an ugly duckling that had fallen into a flock of swans. It was an eye-catching ugliness. Little Nianma circled the white stone twice and reached out to touch it again. This white stone looked like a stone and felt like a stone. No matter how you looked at it, it was actually a big stone. So ugly. Little Nianma commented and shook his head. It's so ugly. He added. The ordinary-looking white stone. Strange, why would such an ugly stone occupy the center position? It feels like a sparrow occupying a phoenix's nest. Little Nianma complained again. White stone? Little Nianma raised his hand and knocked on the white stone with his knuckles. Chapter 2157. Little Nianma raised his little hand and knocked on the white stone with his knuckles. He tilted his head to listen and shook his head. It does not sound like a beautiful jade wrapped in stone. The white stone was speechless. What was a beautiful jade? It was 10,000 times more precious than a beautiful jade. No, it was 100 million times more precious. It resisted the urge to flash a bright light and blind the little kid's eyes. It continued to play the role of a stone quietly. This white stone was the heavenly law stone. It fell from the Fanteon Palace and quietly drilled into the ground. The spiritual energy underground was not as strong as the Fanteon Palace, and it needed to accumulate energy to maintain the resurrection of the Divine Lord in its body. Therefore, it drilled into the ground to find a crystal cave that could provide it with energy. It was the heavenly law stone, the ancestor of all stones. Naturally, it was very sensitive to crystals. Soon it found it here. It slightly polished the place and transformed it into a crystal array. It squatted in the middle of the array and absorbed the energy of the crystals. It sincerely felt that it was giving these crystals face by squatting in the center of these crystals. The crystals should be in awe of its presence. It was these crystals that were not worthy of it, not that it was not worthy of these crystals. It thought that it was the most primitive, mysterious, and beautiful stone in the world. However, it did not expect that one day, it would be despised and called ugly. Could the word ugly be related to it? Could it? Could it? Could it? The little kid had no taste. It was the heavenly law stone. It would not lower itself to the same level as a child. The heavenly law stone resisted the urge to flood its mind. It was still there with an unfathomable look. After all, the heavenly law stone was the only magical stone left in the world. Generally, it could control the land wherever it went. It could quickly sense everything that happened on the land. When little Nianma was in danger, it did not want to intervene. However, the Divine Lord in its body seemed to have sensed it. In an instant, it controlled the stone to use the earth-splitting technique to suck little Nianma in. Although he was sucked in, the Heavenly Law Stone did not want to communicate with the little kid. Therefore, it let him wander around and found him here. There were crystals everywhere. Any one of them was priceless. It could be used to make many energy weapons and magical weapons. The Heavenly Law Stone thought that the little kid would be cheering when he saw the best crystals in the cave. However, it did not expect that he only looked around the hall and turned his attention to the stone. They even circled around it. The Heavenly Law Stone was a little scared by his spinning, but it was still a little relieved. This child was indeed the son of the Supreme Divinity. He was able to tell that the Heavenly Law Stone was extraordinary. However, it did not expect that the little fellow would give it an ugly evaluation. The Heavenly Law Stone's expression didn't change, but its heart suffered 10,000 damage. He had the illusion that his worldview had collapsed. In fact, it had already sensed that Luo Jiuchen had left and that Ning Xuema and the others were looking for the child, but it still refused to make any reaction. That little girl had scolded it and even kicked it a few times, hurting its dignity as the Heavenly Tao Stone. Then it would let her suffer while losing her son. As for the little thing in front of him, once it had wandered around enough, it would probably find its way out on its own. How long could a child play in a crystal hall? At most he would pick up a few crystals. Therefore the Heavenly Law Stone did not take Shin Yanma seriously. He even secretly made up his mind that when this little thing tried to pry open the crystals, he would make sure that the surrounding crystals were firm enough so that the little guy would not be able to pry them open. Chapter 2158. Sure enough, Shin Yanma wandered around the hall looking for the crystals. Soon he found a red crystal pillar and placed his little hand on it. Apparently he wanted to break the crystal pillar with his power. However, the red crystal pillar was very strong. He could not break it with ordinary methods. Swoosh! Little Nianma took out a shiny dagger and cut the bottom of the crystal pillar. Ah! He actually used a weapon to cut the crystal. Did he think that it was as easy as cutting tofu? Did he know that the crystal was very fragile? Even if a sword could cut it, it would also break the pillar. Could not be used at all. This was common sense, but the little guy did not know. He was still a child. The stone was dying of laughter. The Heavenly Law Stone was overjoyed. However, the Heavenly Law Stone was not amused for long. If it had eyes, it would have opened them wide at this moment. It saw that the dagger in little Nianma's hand had cut the incredibly beautiful red crystal off neatly. What kind of dagger was that? The Heavenly Law Stone's attention shifted to the dagger in little Nianma's hand. It was surprised to find that the material of the dagger was very special. It was actually made of an extremely rare meteorite iron. Moreover, it was attached with an extremely strong power. Any hard object would be cut by this dagger. It did not expect that he could own such a weapon at such a young age. Needless to say, it was given to her son by Ning Xuema. She had spent a lot of money on this son of hers. While the Heavenly Law Stone was murmuring in its heart, it suddenly felt something. When it pulled its attention back, it saw little Nianma holding the crystal and walking around it. The Heavenly Law Stone was confused. This crystal is the most beautiful and rare. This position should belong to it. However, it is occupied by such a stupid stone. Little Nianma talked to himself. The Heavenly Law Stone was shocked. Little Nianma carefully put the crystal aside and then walked directly to the Heavenly Law Stone. The Heavenly Law Stone was alert. What was he trying to do? Little Nianma channeled his power of telekinesis into his hands. He opened his arms and hugged the white stone. It was a small corner. The white stone was not small. He was too short to carry it. It was being hugged. It was being hugged by a little kid. The Heavenly Tao Stone subconsciously wanted to send this little thing flying, but it was afraid that if it didn't control its strength well, it would directly smash this child into a meat patty. While Gu Shijio was struggling, little Nianma's two little arms had already hugged it and shook it vigorously. The Heavenly Tao Stone snorted. This little fellow's strength was indeed not small, but he wanted to shake it? That was undoubtedly an ant trying to shake a tree. Not to mention him, even if that bastard Luo Jiuchen came, it would be extremely difficult to shake it. As long as it didn't want to move its nest, even 10 tyrannosaurs wouldn't be able to move it. Little Nianma's face turned red. He tried for a long time, but he still could not move the eyesore away. Finally he was angry. With a whoosh he took out his dagger. Heavenly Tao Stone. This little bastard wanted to chop it up? Did he know that he would be struck by lightning if he dared to disrespect the Heavenly Tao Stone? Swoosh. Little Nianma did not listen to it. The dagger flashed in the air and slashed at the base of the Heavenly Law Stone. Obviously, he wanted to cut off the top of the stone and put his broken crystal at that position to absorb the essence from all sides. The Heavenly Law Stone immediately guessed his purpose and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 2159. It was true that the newborn calf was not afraid of the tiger. The ignorant were fearless. Pah! The red crystal that had been placed properly suddenly broke into pieces and scattered all over the ground. Needless to say, it was the work of the Heavenly Law Stone. It only needed to use a little bit of its power to shatter the red crystal. Little Nianma was shocked. He turned around and realized that the red crystal was broken. There was no wind in the cave and he clearly placed the red crystal firmly. How could it suddenly fall to the ground and break into pieces? He did not care anymore. He had to move the white stone away first and then look for other red crystals. His mother's birthday was coming soon, and he wanted to use the red crystal to make a sword for his mother. Ordinary crystals were too brittle, but if he chose a good material and placed it in the center of the formation, the crystal would gather a large amount of energy and undergo fission. He could then use a spell to stimulate it, and it should be able to become as hard as cold iron, which would not shatter easily. Little Nianma's idea was very good, so he turned around and wanted to cut the stone. The Heavenly Law Stone was speechless. Little Nianma did not care about it and cut the stone's foot. After a loud noise, the dagger did cut the stone, but it was quickly reflected back. Not only did the sharp dagger bend, but it also broke one of Little Nianma's little hands. It was bleeding. Little Nianma felt a strong force rebounding back and he took a few steps back. He looked at the dagger in his hand in disbelief and then looked at his bleeding hand. This inconspicuous white stone was actually so hard. It was the first time he saw such a hard stone. Little Nianma did not want to admit defeat. He stood there for a moment and suddenly rushed forward again. His little hand was stained with blood. His original intention was to use his psychokinesis to test how hard the rock was. Unexpectedly, just as his little hand touched it, the rock suddenly twisted and turned into a whirlpool. It pulled his little hand abruptly. Little Nianma's vision was blurred. After a flash of light, he found that he was in another place. It was the best crystal cave. Dazzling rainbow-colored crystals surrounded him. These crystals were stacked together in a certain order, forming countless indescribable patterns of formations. Each pattern was like a flowing talisman, spinning non-stop in the surroundings like water waves. It flashed with strange and variegated lights. The crystals here were definitely the best of the best. Compared to the crystals here, the red crystal he was holding just now was like dirt. Little Nianma fell directly into the room. He was still a little confused. After he got up, he looked around and was a little surprised. Was this the interior of the white stone? That's not right, the white stone is only the size of a round table, but this space is unbelievably big. It was at least several thousand feet wide. It was even bigger than the crystal hall he had seen earlier. What kind of place had he fallen to? Little Nianma could not help but wander around the cave to observe. The Heavenly Tao Stone, however, froze. It didn't want to swallow this little guy. No one had been able to enter its interior. Even Shinjoli had been nurtured by the Heavenly Tao Stone using its own divine power to gather the other party's soul. And now, this little guy had run in. He ran in. What was going on? What kind of physique did this little guy have? How could he have such an ability? The Heavenly Tao Stone was filled with questions, and the crystal pillar inside it was filled with question marks. Chapter 2160. Of course, the question mark was also a special language of the heavenly law. Only a few people could understand it, so it was not afraid of being seen by little Nianma. Little Nianma was wandering around in the crystal cave. Naturally, he saw the strange symbols on the crystal pillars. He only thought that it was a kind of spell, so he did not care at all. He was looking at the various crystal pillars in the cave, thinking about which one looked the best. After he had chosen it, he could directly take it away without having to put it in the middle of the crystal cave to condense it. He walked around and suddenly found that these crystal pillars seemed to be arranged in a kind of array. All the crystal energy was also concentrated in the center of the array. The energy here was even more amazing. So, what good things were hidden in the middle of this place? Little Nianma was very knowledgeable and knew a lot about arrays. After a few rounds he finally bypassed the crystal pillars. The scene in front of him made his eyes widen. Crystal lotus. He saw a huge crystal lotus bud. The lotus was tightly closed and its shape was very lifelike. Even the color was like a real lotus. The only difference was that the petals of this lotus were crystal clear. The veins on the petals were clear and shining slightly. It was strangely huge, at least 10 times bigger than an ordinary lotus. At a glance, there seemed to be dew rolling on it. It was so fresh that people could not wait to touch and smell it. Little Nianma did not know why, but when he saw this lotus bud, he felt very familiar with it, especially when the lotus had a faint cold fragrance. This fragrance? His little heart suddenly began to thump wildly. His pair of eyes were wide open. He could smell his father's breath on this crystal lotus. Father's breath. How long had it been since he smelled this breath? How long had it been? Obviously, it was only a few months, but he felt that it had been a few centuries. When he was in the Fantian Palace, every time he missed his father, he would secretly go to his father's bedroom to smell the remaining breath there. However, the breath was getting lighter and lighter, and in the end it was almost too faint to be smelled. He even secretly hid a robe of his father and put it in his small storage space. When he missed his father very much, he would secretly take out the robe to smell it, and then hurriedly put it back. However, later on, the breath on the robe also faded. Especially after he and his mother were forced to leave Fantian Palace, it was even harder for him to smell his father's aura. Although he didn't say it out loud these days, he still yearned for it in his heart. He didn't expect to smell it here. The fragrance of the lotus was also very faint. If one didn't walk in front of it, they wouldn't be able to smell it. Even so, it was enough for little Nianma to be excited. He walked over step by step, greedily smelling the scent of the lotus. The smell was too good. It smelled so good that he wanted to cry and his nose felt sore. Father? Little Nianma uttered 2 words as if he had been wronged. His big eyes were covered with a layer of tears. He missed his father. Speaking of which, when would father return? The heavenly Tao stone displayed a bunch of exclamation marks. This brat could actually tell that his father was hidden in the lotus bud. It was too amazing. Little Nianma could not help but gently press on the petals of the lotus flower. He was shocked. This petal felt too real. As if it was real. This lotus bud actually emitted the same fragrance as his father's. It must be a celestial flower. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.